Chapter 16:13. The thick black fog was deathly silent. What worried everyone was that the fog could actually isolate divine consciousness. Most importantly, staying here would cause one's true origin energy to drain faster than in the outside world. Roar. At this moment, a furious roar came from the black fog. Before everyone could react, the ground beneath their feet started to shake violently, as if thousands of troops and horses were charging over. Under everyone's gazes, they finally saw a long line of people and horses galloping toward them. All of them were wearing armor and riding warhorses. The only difference was that these armors were all human-shaped skeletons, and the warhorses beneath their feet were the same. Undead! Lei Yunzi shouted. Don't move! Yi Chen reminded. These are armor ghost soldiers. I think they're protecting this world. Don't be rash unless it's absolutely necessary. There were simply too many armor ghost soldiers before them, and they were outnumbered. Once a battle broke out, it would definitely take a long time. Moreover, the leader was a golden-armored human-shaped skeleton. Its murderous aura was not weaker than Tribulation's at all. In an instant, the two groups of people faced each other, as if the living and the undead were staring at each other. The dense armor ghost soldiers did not move at all. Only the golden-armored ghost soldier, who was leading the group, looked at everyone blankly. His gaze paused on Tribulation for a few seconds. At the same time, the murderous aura on his body skyrocketed at a speed visible to the naked eye. It seemed like he could attack Yi Chen and the rest at any time. However, in the next moment, he was stunned when his gaze landed on Yi Chen. Then, he seemed to have recalled something, and his expression became extremely respectful. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. He waved his hand abruptly and led the dense armor ghost soldiers past Yi Chen and the rest. After they disappeared, Yang Tian heaved a sigh of relief. That was close. We almost fought. What the hell was that? The Patriarch of Hell took a good look at Yi Chen and said, Fellow Yi, that armor ghost soldier was clearly going to attack us. Why did it leave after taking a glance at you? I'm not too sure about the details. Yi Chen shook his head without changing his expression. Then, he led everyone toward the light outside the black fog. Meanwhile, a lot of information flashed through his mind. The Netherworld River, the Shura, the armor ghost soldier, everything was built according to the Netherworld. Could it be that they had really entered the legendary Netherworld? What worried him the most was that he had exposed Su Yuhan's background when he searched the fallen spirit's sex soul on Earth. If all of this was related to Su Yuhan, he did not know if it was a blessing or a curse for him to step into this place. After the time it took for a stick of incense to burn, a huge mountain appeared in front of everyone. The mountain seemed to be tens of thousands of feet tall, and the area near the top of the mountain was covered by clouds. There seemed to be countless pavilions appearing in the depths of the clouds. Although they were damaged, they still gave off a sacred aura. So beautiful! Yang Tian could not help but praise. Damn it, this is the place where people should stay. What was that place before? There's something up there. Patriarch Yellow Spring fixed his eyes on the depths of the clouds. Could it be the Immortal Palace? Yang Tian chuckled. It would be great if it really is an immortal palace. If we all climb up, we might be able to see a fairy. Patriarch Yellow Spring gave him a contemptuous look. What's that? Lei Yunzi suddenly spoke. Everyone looked over and saw that at the foot of the mountain, there was a staircase leading up. It seemed to lead straight to the palace in the clouds. However, when everyone blinked and looked again, the extremely obvious staircase suddenly disappeared. What greeted their eyes was an extremely steep mountain range. When they blinked again, the staircase appeared again. A formation! At that moment, the same thought flashed through everyone's minds. Interesting! Yi Chen was slightly surprised because the staircase still appeared extremely strange under his golden pupil fiery eyes. This could only mean that this place was extremely unusual. There was probably a great formation or an extremely terrifying restriction. Just as he was hesitating whether he should go over to investigate, several figures rushed over from afar. Yu Taiyuan narrowed his eyes and said with a cold smile, "It's them. They're really fast." The few figures landed not far from Yi Chen and the rest. They were Huang Fuyu, Jiang Shengwu, Holy Master Heavenly Jade, and Holy Master Tripitaka. However, at that moment, they looked a little dispirited and in a sorry state. Clearly, they had expended a lot of energy earlier. Tisk Yang Tian looked at them in extreme surprise. "Isn't this Divine Master Jiang? How did you become like this? You don't look like the ruler of a god dynasty at all. If your people see this, they'll ruin your image in their eyes." B*****. Jiang Xingwu's expression turned cold as he looked at him with killing intent. "Junior, don't think that I won't dare to touch you just because you have mad Southern Ye support. I'm so scared." Hearing that, Yang Tian immediately pretended to be extremely afraid. He then took 2 steps back and said to Yi Chen, "Old Yi, did you hear that? This guy wants to kill me. It's obvious that he doesn't care about you." "Is that so?" Yi Chen chuckled and took a step forward. He looked at the few of them with interest. "Looks like your subordinates couldn't catch up." "So what?" Holy Master Heavenly Jade sneered. "Nothing," Yi Chen said with a faint smile. "What I'm thinking is, why don't we take this opportunity to kill you guys so that we don't have to cause trouble outside?" "That's right. These guys look weak. It's time to kill them." The Patriarch of Hell rubbed his palms together, extremely excited. As soon as the 2 of them finished speaking, the expressions of Jiang Shengwu and the rest changed. Then, they stood together, faintly showing signs of forming a group. "You're scared just like that?" The Patriarch of Hell seemed to be disdainful as he said, "We haven't even made a move, and you guys are already so scared. Look at you guys. Mad Southern Yi, do you really want to fight us to the death?" Jiang Shengwu's expression was grim. He stared straight at Yi Chen and said, "Don't forget that this place is dangerous. If we fight, you know very well if there will be terrifying consequences." "That's right." Holy Master Heavenly Jade also said coldly, "Although we've gone through a huge battle and are slightly exhausted, it doesn't mean that we don't have the strength to fight. If we force it, no one will be able to win." They knew very well that if they were in the outside world, they would have the confidence to challenge Yi Chen. However, it was different now. Their subordinates were either dead or injured. Now, only the 4 of them were left. On the other hand, there were 9 people on Yi Chen's side, and none of them were injured. Coupled with Yi Chen's terrifying combat ability, it would be disadvantageous for them if they fought now. End of this chapter. Chapter 16-14. Kill them. The Patriarch of Hell roared and was about to attack. Boom! However, at that moment, the ground under everyone's feet suddenly shook violently, as if there was an earth-shattering earthquake. What's going on? Why is there an earthquake all of a sudden? Everyone was shaken to the point of dizziness. Yang Tian suddenly said, "Look over there." Everyone immediately looked over and saw that the mountain in the distance that seemed to be tens of thousands of meters tall suddenly split open from the middle. An incomparably resplendent light bloomed from within. It was as if an immortal light had suddenly appeared. "A rare treasure has appeared." The eyes of Jiang Shengwu and the rest instantly turned red. Hadn't they taken a huge risk to come here for this item? Swish! The Heavenly Jade Holy Master took the lead and shot toward that direction. The others hurriedly followed, afraid that someone would beat them to it. "Let's go too!" Yi Chen shouted softly and teleported away with everyone. Behind him, there were many powerhouses who had rushed here. From afar, the light emitted from the center of the mountain looked like a dazzling immortal light. However, when everyone got closer, they realized that the crack was extremely huge. It was hard to imagine that such a huge crack could be stable and not collapse. Oh no! The Heavenly Jade Holy Master, who was charging at the front, also saw that he was less than 3,000 meters away from the crack. Suddenly, He felt the surrounding space become extremely hard and crazily squeeze his body. Blurg! He spat out a mouthful of blood and fell heavily from the sky. When he looked again, his clothes were completely torn, and his skin was covered in dense spider webs. Jiang Xingwu, who was behind him, also fell heavily. His sorry state was no better than the heavenly jade holy master's. There's a flight restriction in the void here. Huang Fu Yu's pupils constricted, but he did not dare to go any further. He said from afar, "The closer we get to the crack, the more terrifying the power of the restriction. If we're not careful, our bodies will collapse." The moment that was said, many people's expressions changed. "Be careful." The Patriarch of Hell glanced at Yang Tian and the rest and reminded worriedly, "Don't approach the crack easily." He could not help but look at Yi Chen after saying that. "Fellow Yi, the owner of this place has extremely high attainments in formations. If we force our way closer, I'm afraid we won't be any better than them. This forbidden space restriction is very mysterious." Flames flickered in Yi Chen's eyes. "If you want to force your way in, you'll need to have a certain level of physical strength. Otherwise, you'll have to find the formation base of the restriction and destroy it. You guys stay here, I'll give it a try." With that thought in mind, he took a step forward and flew towards the crack. Jiang Xingwu and the rest could not help but scoff upon seeing that Yi Chen refused to believe it. It was as if they could see Yi Chen falling from the sky. Buzz, as soon as Yi Chen rose into the air, he felt a space pressure that was like a tidal wave. It squeezed his body almost from all directions without any blind spots. He took a deep breath and continued to approach the crack. At the same time, the squeezing pressure became more and more terrifying. In the end, Yi Chen could feel every muscle in his body wriggling. However, it did not cause any actual harm to him. 1,000 feet, 500 feet, 20 zhang. As everyone watched, Yi Chen was getting closer and closer to the crack. In the end, he appeared at the crack by force. Whoosh! Seeing this scene, the people standing in the distance were all shocked. Even the heavenly jade holy master and the rest could not do it, but Yi Chen did it. How is this possible? The heavenly jade holy master's expression was extremely ugly. This brat's physical body is actually so strong? Could it be that the forbidden space restriction has failed? Someone mumbled. He could not help but fly toward Yi Chen's direction. However, in the next moment, he screamed as he was instantly squeezed into a bloody mist by the terrifying spatial force. Dead silence. The scene suddenly fell into dead silence. As soon as Yi Chen stepped into the crack, he felt the world spin before his eyes. When the scene before him returned to normal, he was stunned. When the scene before him returned to normal, he realized that his surroundings were not stone walls like he had imagined. Instead, there were endless plants. From towering trees to bushes, there was everything. He could even faintly hear the sound of water. A valley? Yi Chen's eyes flashed. He did not expect the belly of the huge mountain to have such a scene. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, it would have been hard to believe. Yi Chen lifted his head and looked at the dome that seemed to be hundreds of thousands of feet tall. There was a crack there, and the light came from there. He frowned and soared into the air. At the same time, he enveloped the area with his divine consciousness and saw everything within a 5-kilometer radius. What's that? With a sudden thought, his figure flashed. When he appeared again, he had already landed in front of a mountain. The mountain was only over 1,000 feet tall, and it was extremely flat. Instead of calling it a mountain, it was more like a mound that rose from the ground. Logically speaking, this place was no different from other places. However, Yi Chen's gaze was fixed on it. Suddenly, Yi Chen stretched out his hand and gathered energy into a sword. A sword chi slashed at the void before him. In the next moment, a strange scene appeared. The strand of sword chi didn't cause any sound after it landed there. Instead, there was a flash of light that completely nullified the strand of sword chi. Formation. Instead of being shocked, Yi Chen was delighted. A smirk appeared at the corner of his lips. There's an undetectable formation set up on such an ordinary slope. It must be hiding some secret. With a wave of his sleeve, several yellow formation flags immediately appeared in the void. The formation flags were combined in a mysterious way and completely enveloped the void. Break! Yi Chen formed seals with both hands and pointed a finger. The few formation flags suddenly expanded. As the light shone from them, a loud explosion was heard in the air. Subsequently, thick white fog emerged from the void. Yi Chen took a deep breath of the fog and realized that it contained extremely pure spiritual power. He pondered for a moment before taking a step out. The scene before him changed, and what he saw was a dilapidated wall. Judging from the age, the dilapidated wall had been around for a long time. There were faint traces of battle left behind. Yi Chen scanned with his divine consciousness, and his expression turned extremely strange, because it was a dilapidated herb garden. There were many corpses everywhere. It seemed that a shocking battle had broken out here when someone was alive, causing them to die here. Yi Chen walked to a corpse that was sitting cross-legged. Even though the corpse had been dead for so many years, its body was still emitting a jade-like luster. It seemed to be an immortal golden body. This person must have been a martial Tao Almighty when he was alive. Yi Chen secretly guessed. Only then did he notice that there was an agate-like ring on the other party's pale index finger. End of this chapter. Chapter 1615. Storage ring? With a thought, Yi Chen grabbed the ring from afar. The divine consciousness on it had long dissipated. He scanned it with his divine consciousness and revealed a disappointed expression. The space in the storage ring had long collapsed, causing many things to decay. However, there was a token that looked like black iron that was preserved. The token was only the size of a palm, and the words "Heavenly Cripple" were written on it. This is the language of the spirit realm. Yi Chen's eyes were moved. He stared at the token in his hand. Could this person be an almighty in the spirit realm when he was alive? Heavenly Cripple. His eyes flickered as he tried his best to remember the two keywords. Then, he seemed to have thought of something. Could it be the Heavenly Cripple demon sect of the spirit realm? In the spirit realm, other than the orthodox immortal cultivation sects, there were also demonic cultivation sects and demon clans. The powerhouse of the demonic cultivation sects in the spirit realm was the Heavenly Cripple Demon sect. The Heavenly Cripple Demon sect was extremely special. Everyone in the sect was disabled. If they were not crippled, they would be crippled. Even if the disciples who had just entered the sect had all 4 limbs, they would still have their hands and feet chopped off. Even so, every year, countless people would fight to put them in. This was related to the cultivation method of the Heavenly Cripple Demon sect. They believed that the body was strong, and they tortured their bodies to stimulate their cultivation heart. Thinking to this point, he could not help but size up the corpse in front of him again. He realized that the latter was missing a leg. Looks like it's really someone from the Heavenly Cripple Demon sect. Yi Chen secretly shook his head. But why would the remains of cultivators from the spirit realm appear here? His eyes flickered as he looked around again. He checked the other corpses one by one, but the results caused quite a stir in his heart. The dead here were all cultivators from the spirit realm. There were people from the beast taming sect, people from sword cultivation sects, and even demonic cultivators. Apart from that, there were more remains of the Azura clan. However, their seas of consciousness had long decayed, so there was no valuable items left behind. Suddenly, a thought flashed through Yi Chen's mind. Could this be one of the battlefields where the Netherworld and the spirit realm fought back then? Many years ago, the Netherworld attacked the spirit realm under the leadership of the Azura king. The war between the two realms was intense. Just as the Netherworld was about to conquer the spirit realm, a true immortal descended to save everything. Boom! Just as he was about to investigate more, a loud noise suddenly came from outside, and then he saw several auras rushing over. It was Jiang Shengwu and the others. Yang Tian, Old Ancestor, and the rest followed. Clearly, they had broken the flight prohibition spell outside and discovered the formation that Yi Chen had broken. When everyone came in and saw the tragic scene before them, they were incredibly shocked. At the same time, they quickly searched the scene, trying to find any treasures. However, they found nothing. Someone looked at Yi Chen in an unfriendly manner. "Mad Southern Yi, you were the first to arrive here. Did you get anything?" As soon as those words were spoken, everyone turned to look at Zhang Xian. Yes, Mad Southern Yi was the first to enter. If there was anything good, it would definitely be snatched by him. "What are you doing? What for?" Yang Tian and the rest stood next to Yi Chen immediately. They looked at everyone with killing intent. "Do you guys want to fight?" The expression of the person who spoke earlier changed, and he could only snort coldly. "I just wanted to ask if fellow Taoists ye had any gains inside." "So what if I do? So what if I don't?" Yi Chen's expression was indifferent. "If you want to verify it, you can do it. However, it depends on whether you have the ability to take it." His words were extremely overbearing. Everyone dared to be angry, but they did not dare to say anything because only Jiang Shengwu and the other two could fight Yi Chen. If the three of them did not speak, what else could they say? "Hee, brother Yi, this fellow was just casually mentioning it. Why are you so agitated? Could it be that you have a guilty conscience?" Huang Fu Yu pretended to be a good person. At the same time, his words implicitly placed Yi Chen on the opposite side of everyone. "Huang Fu Yu, stop pretending to be a good person." Yang Tian chuckled. "Even if old Yi really obtains something good, it's his opportunity. If you guys aren't convinced, just come at me." Huang Fu Yu's expression darkened. He could only snort coldly and stop speaking. He led his men to search the huge ruined herb garden. The others hurriedly followed suit, afraid that they would miss anything good. Yang Tian winked at Yi Chen. "Old Yi, is there any treasure inside?" Everyone could not help but look at him. "No." Yi Chen shook his head lightly. "Although I haven't seen anything good yet, I've learned a shocking secret." "What secret? Tell me about it," the Patriarch of Hell said with interest. Just when Yi Chen was about to speak, he suddenly heard a cry from afar. "5-colored glazed fruit?" In the blink of an eye, countless gazes looked over. They saw a plant on the broken wall in the distance. It was only a foot tall, and there were 5 glowing fruits on the plant. The fruits were 5-colored and crystal clear. From afar, they looked like glass, looking extremely mysterious. As soon as the person who spoke earlier said that, it was too late for regrets because everyone had discovered it. "Is it really the 5-colored glazed fruit? It looks exactly like the ancient book. 5-colored and shaped like glass. It should be the 5-colored glazed fruit. Rumor has it that every time one consumes this fruit, it can increase one's cultivation base by 100 years. This time, everyone's eyes turned red. The cultivator who spoke earlier reached for the 5 fruits without saying a word. Clearly, he wanted to be the first to take it. Ah! Suddenly, an earth-shattering sword ray struck out, severing his outstretched hand. Under everyone's terrified gazes, Huang Fu Yu said indifferently, "How can a mere mid-stage void refinement cultivator like you covet such a treasure?" After Huang Fu Yu finished speaking, he seemed to have sensed the anger of the crowd. He looked at Jiang Shengwu and the rest without changing his expression. "Divine Master Jiang, Holy Master Heavenly Jade, there are 5 of these fruits. Why don't we split them equally? Since fellow Huang Fu is so kind, I won't decline." Jiang Shengwu secretly cursed Huang Fu Yu for being shameless and dragging him down. However, he could not resist the temptation of the 5-colored glazed fruit, so he could only agree with a smile. The Holy Master Heavenly Jade nodded slightly. Seeing this, Yang Tian's eyes turned red. "Old Yi, should we snatch this fruit? If consuming one could really increase one's cultivation base by 100 years, how many powerhouses could they nurture if they brought it back?" The Patriarch of Hell and the rest were tempted. Yi Chen took a good look at the so-called five-colored glazed fruit and said with a frown, "Something's wrong. Don't be rash. Don't be rash." Yang Tian was so angry that he almost vomited blood. "If we wait any longer, someone will eat the fruit." End of this chapter. Chapter 16:16. There's something wrong with that fruit. Yi Chen stopped Yang Tian's impulse. Hearing that, Yang Tian was shocked at first. He immediately suppressed the fire in his heart and chose to remain silent. Since Yi Chen said that, he must have his reasons. At the same time, Jiang Xingwu and the others had already divided up the five-color glazed fruit. Even Saint Master 3 Gloom, an undead creature, got one. The remaining one was given to a cultivator in Great Completion Void Refinement Realm. After plucking the five-colored glazed fruits, the Heavenly Jade Holy Master said, "This fruit can't be kept. The medicinal effects will completely fade over time." At this point, his eyes flickered as he looked at Jiang Xingwu and the rest. His gaze finally landed on Yi Chen. If he consumed the fruit on the spot, he would have to meditate and adjust his breathing. Once that happened, he would definitely be in danger. However, if he did not consume it, he could only watch as the fruit faded away. How could Jiang Xingwu not understand what he meant? He immediately looked at Yi Chen and the rest with killing intent. "Guys, are you guys going to stay and reminisce with us? Old man, do you think we'll ambush you?" Yang Tian chuckled. The Heavenly Jade Holy Master said in an almost targeted manner, "Fellow Yi, if there's nothing else, please leave. Let's go." Yi Chen's eyes flashed. He immediately led Yang Tian and the rest into the distance. Yang Tian asked in confusion, "Old Yi, why should we be afraid of them?" "Afraid?" The Patriarch of Hell snickered. "Just watch the show from now on." After watching Yi Chen and the rest leave, the perfected void refinement cultivator who had obtained a fruit could not help but swallow it. He immediately sat cross-legged and began to adjust his breathing. As he was from the great Jiang God dynasty, with a powerhouse like Jiang Xingwu in charge, no one dared to attack him. In less than half an hour, everyone saw purple energy suddenly shoot out from the top of the former's head. They could not help but feel extremely envious. It was a sign that his cultivation base had improved. "Thank you, Divine Master." After that person woke up, he was extremely grateful to Jiang Xingwu. Jiang Xingwu looked at him carefully and probed, "How do you feel?" "This old man feels very good. This fruit is indeed miraculous. It's enough for me to meditate for 100 years. The former was extremely excited. Seeing this, the last bit of caution in Jiang Xingwu's heart finally dissipated. He shouted, "People of the Divine Imperial Court, protect me!" After saying that, he immediately sat down cross-legged and swallowed the five-color glazed fruit, while the people of the great Jiang Divine Dynasty surrounded him. "People of the Heavenly Jade Holy Land, protect me!" The Heavenly Jade Sacred Leader was not to be outdone. In just a few breaths, the two of them had already swallowed the five-colored glazed fruit. Even so, they still sent out a strand of their divine sense to lock onto everything. They were extremely cautious. Only Saint Lord 3U and Huang Fu Yu did not seem to be in a hurry to consume it. Sage Monarch 3 nether glanced at Huang Fu Yu. "Why don't you take it, fellow Taoist Huang Fu? This Sage Lord has the body of an undead, so this fruit is useless to me." Huang Fu Yu smiled and said, "I've never liked to use external objects to cultivate, so I'll give this fruit to someone else." With a wave of his sleeve, the five-color glazed fruit immediately fell into the hands of Elder Gu behind him. "Thank you, Chief." Elder Gu had been coveting it for a long time. Now that he saw Huang Fu Yu being so generous, how could he not be happy? After thanking him, he immediately swallowed it. Huang Fu Yu's expression was calm, but he could not help but look in the direction where Yi Chen and the rest had left. His eyes flickered. Logically speaking, the fruit was so precious. However, why did Yi Chen and the rest not fight for it? Instead, they watched as they divided it up. Could it be that they were really afraid of them? At the same time, a sinister laugh suddenly sounded from the depths of the secret realm. There are actually two people who can resist the temptation of this fruit. Even I would be tempted if I saw this fruit, especially the young man surnamed Yi and the silver-haired young man. Could it be that they saw through our trap? After saying that, he tried his best to move his body and looked at the depths of the pool that was wrapped in the black house. Old demon, there are too many people here this time. What should we do next? Just follow the plan. An evil voice came from the pool. So what if there are more people? They're only at the void refinement stage. I'll take care of them myself. What? You're going personally? Aren't you afraid of exposing yourself and attracting the attention of the master of this world's treasure? The demon lord's soul fragment can't be delayed any longer. If you continue to be afraid, it'll be easy for things to happen. As soon as he finished speaking, a monstrous demonic energy suddenly whizzed out from the pool and hid in the void. At the same time, about 1,000 kilometers away from the abandoned herb garden, Yang Tian turned his head 3 times with every step he took. Old Yi, there's still no movement over there. Could that fruit be real? Until now, he still had not given up on the so-called 5-colored glazed fruit. Clearly, he could not resist the temptation of being able to instantly increase his cultivation base by 100 years. Yi Chen glanced at him helplessly and said, "Tell me, the so-called 5-colored glazed fruit is filled with corpses and there are traces of battle. Why has the fruit been preserved until now?" Fellow Taoist, Yi is right. Yu Taiyuan nodded slightly and said, "Logically speaking, everything should have been destroyed in such a large-scale battle. Why were only the 5 fruits preserved? What if the fruit grew after those people died?" Yang Tian smiled bitterly. "That won't happen." Yi Chen shook his head lightly. The 5-colored glazed fruits plant must absorb the flesh and blood of the dead to bear fruit. Otherwise, how could it have the heaven-defying effect of instantly increasing a cultivator's cultivation base by 100 years? At this point, he added, also, in reality, the real 5-colored glazed fruit can only survive in the 5-colored soil. What's 5-colored soil? Yang Tian asked subconsciously. Yu Taiyuan chuckled and said, "The so-called 5-colored soil is a feng shui theory. Where there is a true dragon's vein, there will be 5-colored soil. It's not that there are 5 colors. It's generally cinnabar, orange, and white." Yang Tian recalled and could not help but shake his head. There was indeed no 5-colored soil in that place earlier. That's why I said there's something wrong with the fruit. Yi Chen's eyes flickered as he said, "However, I don't understand why this fruit appeared." An hour later, Yi Chen arrived at the depths of a mountain. As soon as the group stepped in, Yang Tian seemed to have stepped on some kind of mechanism that instantly activated the formation. Buzz, a gigantic light formation trapped everyone within it. Outside the light formation, countless malicious spirits and evil creatures materialized and attacked Yi Chen and the rest. "Little Yang, you're really a troublemaker." Old Ancestor Yellow Spring cursed as he dealt with the swarm of ghosts and phantoms that surged towards him. Flames danced in Yi Chen's eyes. He suddenly said, "It's not his fault. There's a barrier here to begin with." End of this chapter. Chapter 16-17. Whoosh! In an instant, an extremely dazzling purple lightning exploded from Yi Chen's palm. It whizzed out like a spider web. It was the purple heaven divine lightning. Everyone immediately heard all kinds of shrill screams, and all those who were touched by the purple cloud heavenly thunder were turned into ashes. These ghosts were not powerful. They were around the level of a ghost emperor, which was equivalent to the nascent soul stage of cultivators. However, a second wave of ghosts would appear endlessly after the first wave was destroyed. "Fellow Yi, this isn't a long-term solution. We have to break this formation," the Patriarch of Hell roared. "Break!" Yi Chen freed his other hand and threw a domineering punch. It landed heavily on the formation light screen that trapped them. Since he could not kill them all, he would break everything with brute force. Break! At the same time, the Patriarch of Hell, Yu Taiyuan, and the rest attacked with all their might, unleashing all sorts of abilities and spells. In just a few breaths of time, the formation light screen began to dim, as if it was on the verge of collapse. Let's work harder. The formation is about to break. The Patriarch of Hell shouted. Rumble! In the end, along with a loud bang, the light barrier shattered, and a quiet passageway appeared before everyone's eyes. There's a door. Everyone was overjoyed when they saw this. Clearly, they did not expect that a passage would appear after the formation was broken. This is my opportunity. Yang Tian glanced at the Patriarch of Hell. Patriarch, if I hadn't activated this formation earlier, no one would have discovered this passage. The Patriarch of Hell's face was filled with disdain. Let's go. Yi Chen took a step out of the quiet passage first. The passage was about 10 meters tall, and there were countless relief sculptures carved on the surrounding stone walls. They looked like ferocious ghosts. However, after walking for less than a kilometer, they realized that there was no path ahead. They were blocked by a thick stone wall. Bang! The Patriarch of Hell gathered his energy into a sword and slashed out. This sword strike that could kill any soul formation cultivator could not shake the stone wall at all. Could this be a dead end? Yang Tian was a little depressed. F***ck, are they messing with us? Which goddamn old fart came up with this prank? Don't be agitated. There should be a formation. Yi Chen comforted him. Raging flames suddenly bloomed in his eyes. Subsequently, he formed a seal with both hands and slapped the dead end in front of them. Boom! Under everyone's dumbfounded expressions, the stone walls on both sides violently trembled as a teleportation array appeared in front of everyone. Go! Yi Chen did not hesitate. He called everyone over and stepped into the gigantic teleportation formation. When everyone reappeared, they realized that they were in an endless sea of flames. Everyone turned back to find that there was still a boundless sea of flames behind them, and the temperature was so high that even Lei Yunzi and the others' expressions changed slightly. The strangest thing was that there were actually 8 holes in all directions that seemed to lead to the outside. Patriarch Yellow Spring shouted, "Look up!" Everyone immediately looked over and saw a huge bronze surface above their heads. There were countless giant carvings on it. Pill furnace, we're in a pill furnace. Yi Chen said something that shocked everyone. What? An pill furnace? Yang Tian was so shocked that he trembled. Such a huge pill furnace? It's at least 1,000 square meters, right? Who would use such a huge pill furnace to refine pills? Lei Yunzi and the rest were also shocked. A pill furnace that was over 1,000 square meters? Was he trying to refine pills or humans? It's indeed a pill furnace. Patriarch Yellow Spring narrowed his eyes and said, I've seen this kind of pill furnace before. It's not used for refining pills. To be precise, it's used for sacrifices. Since it's a pill furnace, let's go out through the vent. This fire is too powerful. If this goes on, I'll become a roasted pig. Yang Tian wanted to cry but had no tears. Patriarch Yellow Spring sized up his burly body and forced himself to say, It's a roasted pig, not a roasted suckling pig. Yi Chen nodded lightly. Just as he was about to bring everyone out through the vent, he saw a ray of light suddenly spreading out from the center of the flames in the distance. What's that? He narrowed his eyes and activated his golden pupil flame with all his might. He saw a dazzling lotus leaf vibrating in the center of the flames. Golden light, purple light, green energy, scarlet light, and yellow halo resonated with each other. 5-element heavenly lotus. Yi Chen's expression changed almost at that moment. Then, he was overjoyed. 5-element heavenly lotus. He had finally found it. With this thought in mind, his figure moved. Under everyone's shocked gazes, he whizzed towards the center of the flames. What's old Yi doing? Yang Tian was shocked. Yi Chen did not seem to hear him. Instead, He sped up. The closer he got to the five-element heavenly lotus, the more terrifying the temperature became. Yi Chen was not afraid at all. The five-element heavenly lotus concerned Su Yuhan's life and death. He had to get it. Just as he was about to approach the five-element heavenly lotus, a black shadow suddenly appeared in front of him like a bolt of lightning. "Brother Yi, so he's your target." When the figure landed, a familiar face appeared. It was Huang Fuyu. Yi Chen's eyes turned grim. "It's you." Subsequently, his eyes could not help but flicker because Huang Fuyu had changed too much at that moment. His entire body was wrapped in demonic energy, as if he had transformed into a supreme devil. With Huang Fuyu's appearance, Old Ancestor Yellow Spring and the others in the distance were shocked and subconsciously rushed over. Boom! In an instant, another dozen black shadows landed beside them, revealing the faces of Jiang Shengwu and the rest. At that moment, Jiang Shengwu and the rest were exactly the same as Huang Fuyu in terms of temperament and appearance. What powerful demonic energy! How did they become like this? Could it be caused by the so-called five-colored glazed fruit? Even the Patriarch of Hell and the rest could not help but be shocked. Huang Fuyu looked at Yi Chen quietly with his black eyes. He said with a forced smile, "Brother Yi, I'm guessing you must be very curious about why I became like this. Have you been possessed?" Yi Chen looked at him fixedly and said word by word, "How sad. A genius of the Huangfu family has been possessed by a devil." Even though he did not know why Huang Fuyu had become like this, he could vaguely guess that it had something to do with the so-called five-colored glazed fruit. Possessed? Huang Fuyu chuckled. No, no, no. How can a person like me accept being possessed? To be precise, I've chosen a path that's extremely suitable for me. It is precisely this path that causes Brother Yi to appear a little weak in my eyes. He shook his head lightly, as if he was confident of victory. Is that so? Yi Chen smirked coldly. Since you want to die, don't blame me. Stand. In the next moment, he took a step forward. End of this chapter. Chapter 16-18. You're just a defeated opponent. Yi Chen's expression was calm as he stared at Huang Fuyu. Boundless killing intent surged out. If I can kill you once, I can kill you again. Shameless boasting. Huang Fuyu smirked coldly. I'd like to see how you're going to fight me now. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, boundless demonic energy erupted from his body like a torrent. Then, it completely filled the huge pill furnace, causing everyone's expression to change. True demonic energy. In the distance, the Patriarch of Hell's expression changed drastically. This is true demonic energy. Fellow Yi, be careful. I'm afraid there's such a terrifying existence in this person's body. True demonic energy? Yi Chen was slightly shocked. There were two types of demons in this world. One was cultivated while the other was born. The latter was known as the most authentic demon bloodline. Even in the devil world, it was considered a noble bloodline. So what if you have help? If you dare to stop me, you'll still die. At that moment, all the pores on Yi Chen's body opened up. Rays of divine light spewed out from his pores. His entire body seemed to be wrapped in divine flames. Boom! Huang Fuyu suddenly clenched his fist, and monstrous demonic energy surged. Then, it directly turned into a giant black demonic wolf. It charged at Yi Chen with an extremely evil aura. His attack was like an ancient demon lord descending to the mortal world. His demonic might was monstrous and difficult to resist. It was as if the space inside the pill furnace was about to collapse at any moment. So, you've been infused with demonic energy. Yi Chen smirked when he saw that. How dare you show yourself to stop me with something that someone else gave you? Boom. Almost at the same time, a large patch of divine flames rose from the space where Yi Chen was. He was like a king in an endless world of flames, unleashing surging power. At the next moment, he raised his right palm and clenched it into a fist. He took a step forward like an eagle soaring into the sky or an ape moving a mountain. He was domineering and swift, terrifying people. Rumble! The divine light split open as if heaven and earth were splitting apart. Yi Chen broke the giant demonic wolf in an extremely domineering manner. His speed did not decrease as he charged at Huang Fuyu like lightning. As the dazzling golden light converged, the rapidly surging fist shadows seemed to transform into thousands of golden meteorites that shot toward Huang Fuyu. Good timing! The demonic aura in Huang Fuyu's eyes surged. He raised his palms, and a suffocating demonic aura gushed out. Black balls of light quickly condensed around his body. Every single one of those balls of light emitted an extremely evil aura. Swish, swish, Huang Fuyu waved his sleeve, and the densely packed light balls whizzed out. Subsequently, they collided with Yi Chen's attack. Boom, boom, boom! In an instant, the entire pill furnace shook violently, as if it could explode at any moment. Attack! At the same time, Yang Tian roared and his body started to expand at a speed visible to the naked eye, as if he had turned into a terrifying war beast. In the blink of an eye, the aura on his body climbed rapidly. The peak of the early void refinement realm, the mid-void refinement realm, the peak of the mid-void refinement realm. Finally, when he reached the late void refinement stage, he let out a deafening roar and immediately rushed toward Huang Fuyu and the others who were confronting the crowd. Kill! Terrifying lightning erupted from Lei Yunzi's palm as he attacked. Yu Taiyuan, Ing, the Patriarch of Hell, and the rest attacked at the same time. Roar! Tribulation glanced at the five-element heavenly lotus in the middle of the flames and roared at the sky. The pair of golden bone wings on his back shook violently. Boom! He seemed to have transformed into a primordial being as he charged toward the five-element heavenly lotus. He wanted to pluck the five-element heavenly lotus for Yi Chen. Boom! At that moment, a huge human-shaped skeleton attacked and blocked his path. Your opponent is me. It was Supreme Sage Sanya, who had been hiding in the dark. He looked at Tribulation greedily. Both of them were undead creatures, and their levels were almost the same. If they wanted to break through, they could only advance by devouring each other's soul fire. This was an advancement battle. The weak were prey to the strong, and the victor was king. Fight! Tribulation was not afraid at all. The soul fire in his eyes burned brighter and brighter as he charged toward the former. Rumble! In an instant, an earth-shattering battle erupted in the space of the huge pill furnace. Surging pressure and true origin energy surged endlessly. Meanwhile, the real battlefield was between Yi Chen and Huang Fuyu. Boom! The two of them fought intensely and kept colliding. Demonic energy and vast true origin energy surged violently, shocking everyone. Kill! Huang Fuyu's figure moved like lightning, and his murderous aura surged into the sky. It was as if there were hundreds of millions of gods and demons roaring behind him. Boom! Yi Chen was calm. He unleashed the divine fist created in 33 days. It was fierce and fierce, pushing the power of his physical body to the limit. Blech! Huang Fuyu was unable to withstand such a swift and violent attack. He took the blow head-on and was forced to retreat. Scarlet blood spurted from his mouth. Is that all you're capable of? Yi Chen placed his hands behind his back. His black hair was rolling in the flames. At that moment, the energy on his body was extremely powerful. On the other hand, Huang Fuyu's pupils constricted slightly. Then, a strange arc appeared at the corner of his lips. Brother Yi, do you really think that I, Huang Fuyu, am still the same Su Qilin from the past? Hiss, hiss, as soon as he finished speaking, his skin turned red at an astonishing speed. Then, an endless amount of blood gushed out from his pores, and a ruthless aura enveloped him. One could see that the blood in his body was flowing, and it was flowing in reverse, propping up all his blood vessels and meridians. I forgot to tell you, it's not just your physical body that's strong. I'm not inferior to you either. Let me experience my current Rakshasa demonic body. A ferocious grin appeared at the corner of his lips. He clenched his 5 fingers into a fist. As his fist shook violently, he took a step forward and charged at Yi Chen with a terrifying aura. Yi Chen's eyes flashed. He charged at him at high speed as well. Divine flames covered his body, and his arms were crystal clear as he fought Huang Fuyu head-on. Boom! Boom! At that moment, the others who were fighting felt as if they heard the sound of the sky exploding. Yi Chen and Huang Fuyu fought intensely. They collided head-on. Terrifying sparks splashed from their bodies like 2 tanks colliding. Bang! With an earth-shattering bang, the 2 of them were sent flying. Clearly, neither of them could do anything to the other. However, Yi Chen's gaze when he looked at Huang Fuyu became extremely serious. The latter's Rakshasa demonic body displayed an extremely strange self-healing ability. Every time Yi Chen's attack landed on him, even if he was injured, the injury would recover instantly. Chapter 1619. No. On the contrary, at that moment, an earth-shattering sound rang out in the entire pill furnace space. It was like a war beast that pierced through the heavenly jade holy master's heart with 1 claw. Then 2 sharp fangs pierced into the latter's neck. Under everyone's gaze, as Ing sucked, the heavenly jade holy master's body shriveled at a speed visible to the naked eye. Bang! Ing exerted strength in his arms. With a loud bang, the heavenly jade holy master's shriveled body exploded. He was forcefully torn into pieces. Roar! Subsequently, an earth-shattering roar belonging to the corpse king shook everything. Ying's eyes were bloodshot as he looked at the remaining Jiang Shengwu and the rest with a cold expression. This was Ing. Huang Fuyu did not seem to care about the heavenly jade holy master's death at all. His gaze was still on Yi Chen. Brother Yi, do you feel hopeless and helpless now? His gaze was ferocious and extremely sinister. Unfortunately, I'm going to die here today, let alone save my cute sister. Is that so? Yi Chen suddenly smiled. Huang Fuyu, you think too highly of yourself. I told you, the power now isn't yours after all. At the next moment, he threw a punch. 4 symbols true spirit treasure technique. A mysterious symbol appeared on his fist. It seemed to be rising with rays of light, supreme and holy. Boom! Immediately after, the endless flames in the huge pill furnace space began to riot. Then, they surged toward him as if they were alive. Rumble! As the symbol in Yi Chen's hand grew larger and larger, a Qilin with supreme divine might emerged from the flames with a loud bang. Die! Yi Chen walked like a dragon and swept his fists at Huang Fuyu. From afar, it looked like a Qilin had appeared out of nowhere. 4 symbols true spirit treasure technique. It was a killing technique known as a forbidden technique. It was said that it was comprehended by the ancestor of the 4 symbols divine beasts of the immortal world. It was enough to crush everything. What kind of divinity is this? At that moment, Huang Fuyu's cold expression finally changed slightly. He could feel that Yi Chen gave him a creepy feeling at that moment. Rakshasa demon soul. Huang Fuyu roared. His hoarse voice came from his throat, like the roar of a supreme devil. Suddenly, countless blood threads shot out from his body. The blood threads fused with the surrounding demonic qi and turned into a huge blood shadow that enveloped Huang Fuyu. The blood shadow was like a ferocious giant beast. It was over 1,000 feet tall, and its appearance could not be seen clearly. There seemed to be a pair of antlers on its head, wrapped in a torrential blood aura, and its roar was enough to shake the heavens and earth. In that instant, Huang Fuyu's expression turned completely sinister, and a mournful cry rang out. Yi Chen, I transformed into Su Qilin and reincarnated into the mortal world just to return to my peak. However, I destroyed my clan and destroyed my body. You stole my sovereign seal again, forcing me to choose this path. Roar! The huge blood shadow that enveloped him also let out a monstrous roar. Dense blood energy almost enveloped the entire space of the huge pill furnace. The might it emitted caused the expressions of old ancestor Yellow Spring and the others to change. "Old Yi!" Yang Tian roared. Boom! Huang Fuyu took a step forward and waved his right palm. The huge blood shadow behind him immediately attacked Yi Chen with monstrous blood aura. Break! Yi Chen roared into the sky. He seemed to have transformed into a gigantic fire qilin. His divine might was unparalleled as he soared into the sky. At that moment, he activated the Four Symbols True Spirit Treasure technique to its limit. Under everyone's gazes, the two divine abilities that carried a destructive force collided heavily in that instant. It was as if they were going to shatter the sky. Boom! The boundless and terrifying storm engulfed everything in a frenzy, like the fluctuations caused by the explosion of a nuclear bomb. At that moment, be it the Patriarch of Hell and the rest, or Jiang Shengwu and the rest, they all vomited blood under the terrifying might before being sent flying. Boom! As an earth-shattering sound rang out, the giant pill furnace finally couldn't withstand the pressure and shattered with a loud bang. Everyone retreated into the distance and looked at the center of the storm nervously, especially Yang Tian and the rest. Their brows were filled with worry. Finally, as the terrifying storm gradually dissipated, a figure finally appeared before everyone's eyes. The figure's clothes were torn, revealing his bronze-colored skin. He stood there like a god of war. "Old Yi!" Yang Tian cried tears of joy when he saw Yi Chen's face clearly. He almost pounced on him. "How is this possible?" Jiang Shengwu and the rest were shocked. They looked back and forth for Huang Fuyu. Finally, they saw a broken body less than 300 meters away from Yi Chen. Although it was a body, it did not look like a human anymore. Its entire body was like charcoal, emitting a foul stench. Dead. At that moment, Jiang Shengwu and the rest almost fainted. Yi Chen stared at the broken body in the distance. After taking a deep breath in, he walked toward the broken body step by step. He was not sure if Huang Fuyu was dead. Just as he was about to approach the broken body, a dark light suddenly shot out from it and flew into the distance. "He's really not dead." Yi Chen's eyes turned cold. He turned into a huge hand and attacked directly. He wanted to destroy the dark light. However, as soon as his hand came into contact with the black light, a burst of power that surpassed the spatial tempering stage suddenly erupted from within the black light. Boom! Yi Chen was sent flying heavily. At the same time, a cackle came to his ears. "Human brat, you're ruthless. However, you're dreaming if you want to kill this brat under my nose." Demon King! Yi Chen took a deep breath in. Within a few breaths of time, the dark light disappeared before everyone's eyes. It was impossible to chase after it. Yang Tian hurried forward to help him up. "Old Yi, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Yi Chen shook his head lightly and sighed softly. "It's a pity that Huang Fuyu got away. It's not your fault." The Patriarch of Hell shook his head and said with a solemn expression, "If I'm not wrong, there's a demon king residing in Huang Fuyu's body. That's why it cast the enlightenment method on him. It's easy to kill him, but if you want to kill him, you'll have to step into the soul-splitting stage. This guy is really an unkillable cockroach. This brat has always been low-key. How did he suddenly become like this?" Yang Tian was puzzled. "I think something happened after we entered this place." Yi Chen shook his head lightly. He then turned around and looked at Tribulation and Saint Lord Sayu, who were fighting. Not far behind them, a divine lotus was shining brightly. Chapter 16:20. Crackle, 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 flames enveloped Yi Chen's palm like a tidal wave and surged into his body continuously as if they wanted to destroy his meridians. "Your attack is useless against me." Yi Chen smiled faintly as he looked at the colorful divine lotus that was resisting in his palm. It was the five-element heavenly lotus. Even with Yi Chen's calm temperament, he could not help but feel excited when he saw what he had been looking for at such a close distance. With the five-element heavenly lotus in hand, he could start refining the longevity pill for Suyuhan. In that case, Suyuhan's injuries could be cured. Although it was a longevity pill, it did not mean that it had the effect of increasing one's cultivation base by 10,000 years. It was just that this pill could defy the heavens and change one's fate, breaking through one's body's resistance and extending one's life for 500 years. Therefore, it was called the longevity pill. Yi Chen waved his hand and forcefully put away the 5-element heavenly lotus in his hand. He then threw it into the distance slowly. There, 2 golden skeletons were still fighting fiercely. They were Tribulation and Sage Lord Triyu. Both of them were the most powerful undead creatures in this world. The only way to advance was to devour each other's soul fire. Yi Chen wanted to help Tribulation by instinct. To his surprise, the latter seemed to have sensed his thoughts and said, "There's no need to help me. This is a fated battle between me and him." Yi Chen was slightly stunned when he heard that. He could only give up and look at Jiang Shengwu and the rest who were trembling at the side. Meeting his gaze, Jiang Shengwu's heart sank. He could not help but say, "Fellow Yi, there's no life and death grudge between us." He knew very well that since Yi Chen could kill the demonized Huang Fuyu, it meant that he could not fight against him. Moreover, the death of the Heavenly Jade Holy Lord had shattered the last line of defense in his heart. Bulsh *T. Yang Tian smirked coldly. Yi Chen stared at him coldly. "Tell me, why did Huang Fuyu become like that?" "Twice. Huang Fuyu had escaped from him twice in a row, which made him feel a sense of danger." Jiang Xingwu's expression changed slightly. "Do you still remember the 5-colored glazed fruit?" "Of course." Yi Chen nodded lightly. "The 5-colored glazed fruit is a trap." Jiang Xingwu seemed to be terrified as he said, "This is a trap set by a demon king hiding here. After we consumed it, we were planted with a demon seed and lost control of our bodies. Huang Fuyu didn't take it." At this point, he smiled bitterly and said, "This kid is extremely cunning. I don't know how he saw that there was something wrong with the 5-colored glazed fruit, so he escaped. Later on, a demon king appeared and took control of us. He killed off all the other cultivators there, leaving only Huang Fuyu alive." Yi Chen's eyes turned grim when he heard that. Why did he leave Huang Fuyu alone? "I'm not too sure about that either." Jiang Shengwu shook his head slightly and said, "But I heard that the Demon King said that he wanted to summon some big shot to this world." "A big shot?" Yi Chen's eyes flashed. Could it be the Demon Emperor? And Huang Fuyu was the cauldron prepared by this Devil King for that great figure. His goal was to allow that great figure to successfully descend into this world? Thinking of this, he could not help but feel a chill in his heart. If the Demon King were to descend, even if it was only a clone, it would be enough to destroy this world. "Forget it," he shook his head and looked at everyone. "It's time for us to go back. What should we do with this guy?" Yang Tian glanced at Jiang Shengwu. Yi Chen looked at Ying with a faint smile. "Should I leave this guy to you?" "Sure." Ying's expression was indifferent. "Let's go." Yi Chen did not hesitate anymore. With a wave of his sleeve, he carried everyone and ran toward the exit of the secret zone. He could vaguely hear the sounds of a great battle coming from behind him. Outside the Yin ruins, above the corpse sea, Yi Chen looked around and could not help but look at Yu Taiyuan, Lei Yunzi, and the rest. "Guys, I have something to do and have to return to Earth. Let's part ways again. Fellow Yi, if you're back, why don't you come to our mermaid tribe?" Yu Taiyuan stroked his beard and smiled. Then, he looked at Yang Tian. "Unfilial son, you should go back too. After all, that's your homeland." Yang Tian nodded heavily. He had been in Yin ruins longer than Yi Chen. It would be a lie to say that he did not miss Earth. After all, there were many memories there. "Fellow Yi," Lei Yunzi said slowly, "with Huang Fuyu's death, the Mad Extermination Alliance has collapsed instantly. I'll return to the Yan Huang fortress to unify the 8 Xianyuan clans. Don't worry, when you return, you'll definitely see a different situation. Then I'll congratulate you in advance. The few of them cupped their fists towards each other. Soon after, their figures flashed as they flew in different directions. Yang Tian was among them. Not long after, Yi Chen waved his hand heavily after Yang Tian brought Yang Hao back. Let's go back to Earth. He was rather excited. He had been in Yin ruins for half a month and experienced many things. Now, he had finally found the five-element heavenly lotus that could extend Su Yuhan's life. Now, he could finally return to Earth to see Su Yuhan, his parents, and his son and daughter, at the same time in Bayou, China. In the depths of General Mountain, a magnificent military forbidden area stood. It was a base built by China to guard the entrance of Yin ruins. At the core of the base, there was a huge stone door that was trembling violently. Boom! With a loud bang, the huge stone door slowly opened. One could vaguely see that the world inside the stone door was like a galaxy. The commotion immediately alarmed the guards, and the entire base immediately sounded the alarm. In just a few breaths of time, countless figures with surging auras gathered in front of the stone door. The leader was an old man in a green robe holding a horsetail whisk in his hand. The old man had a sage-like demeanor and a kind expression. Fellow Feng Qin, the Yin ruins passage is moving so violently. I think someone is coming out. Behind him, an old monk in a kasaya held prayer beads in his hand and said with a solemn expression, "But why haven't we received any messages from Yin ruins? Don't be careless." The Taoist called Feng Qin took a deep breath in and stared at the stone door that was moving more and more. Everyone, prepare for battle. Although the living beings in Yin ruins could not escape to the outside world, they did not dare to be careless when they did not know who the enemy was. After all, their duty was to guard the Yin ruins passage and not let the existence inside endanger the outside world. Buzz. At that moment, the black hole behind the stone door trembled, and a young man in green slowly walked out. There were countless figures behind him. I'm finally back. Yi Chen could not help but sigh as soon as he came out. After seeing his face clearly, Feng Qin Zi and the rest were stunned at first. Then, they knelt on one knee. Greetings, Heavenly Lord Yi. Chapter 16:21. Greetings, Heavenly Lord Yi. A thunderous voice reverberated through the entire void. Everyone, including Feng Qin Zi, had respect in their eyes. Although they had never entered Yin Su before, they knew many things about it, especially Yi Chen's battle record of killing a few void refinement almighties outside the desolate god's tomb. When news of it spread to the outside world a few days ago, it shook the entire China. Countless people who wanted to cause trouble while Yi Chen was away were scared to death. They were secretly relieved. Everyone, please rise. Yi Chen lifted his hand. An irresistible force made everyone stand up uncontrollably. Such a simple action made everyone look even more respectful, especially those who had doubts about Yi Chen's battle record. They were completely convinced now. Heavenly Lord Yi. Feng Qin Zi took a step forward and introduced himself. I'm Feng Qin Zi, the current highest-ranking person in charge of this military base. Thank you for your hard work, fellow Feng Qin. Yi Chen glanced around and nodded lightly. He said, I still have something important to attend to. Please forgive me for not being able to catch up with you guys. Now that he had obtained the five-element Heaven Lotus, his top priority was to return to the Yi family and save Su Yuan. However, Feng Qin Zi seemed to have guessed what he was thinking. He hesitated and said, Are you returning to the Yi family in Tianan, Heavenly Lord Yi? That's right. Yi Chen nodded lightly. He realized that something was wrong with his expression. He could not help but say by instinct, Did something happen to my family? At this point, the entire hall instantly turned cold. Even though Yi Chen did not release his killing intent, the pressure still caused everyone's expression to change. Yang Tian, who was behind Yi Chen, became nervous. Ox nose, did something happen to the Yi family? Feng Qin Zi shook his head slightly when he met their gazes. No, you've misunderstood me. Nothing happened to the Yi family. There's just something wrong. What's wrong? The old man was stammering. If not for the fact that he was one of them, Yi Chen would have performed the soul-searching tactic on him directly. Feng Chenzi took a deep breath in and told them everything that had happened to the Yi family when Yi Chen was not around. It turned out that in the 10 days after Yi Chen entered Yinsu, the Yi family had been peaceful. In the next few days, countless outsiders discovered that the Yi family had sealed the entrance and did not allow anyone to enter. The strangest thing was that the entire Yi clan was wrapped in a cloud of black gas. The black gas was extremely cold. Even a cultivator who had cultivated for a long time would not be able to hold on for 10 minutes. Apart from that, the sky above Nine Dragons Bay was filled with crows. It was as if all the crows in the world had gathered here and could not be dispersed no matter what. Regarding this, the outside world was in an uproar. Some people said that the Yi clan was haunted, while others said that the Yi clan was cultivating some kind of evil technique, causing everyone to panic. Black gas. Yi Chen's eyes flashed when he heard that. Could it be demonic energy? But how did the devil Qi enter the secular world? Seeing that Feng Chenzi did not know anything, he decided to give up. With a sway of his body, he disappeared. At the same time, Tiannan Lin City Yi family. It was daytime at the moment, but the sky above Nine Dragons Bay was dark, as if it was wrapped in dark clouds. Upon closer inspection, they were crows. These crows were circling above the Yi family's residence at that moment, cawing nonstop as if there was some fatal attraction. Trade Wind Literature Network within the Yi family's residence. The entire Yi family villa seemed to have turned into a world of black gas. The hidden power caused nothing to grow within a kilometer of the Yi family villa. Everyone from the Yi family moved out of the Yi family villa and lived in a hut 5 kilometers away from the Yi family villa. Under the withered tree, an old Taoist priest dressed in sloppy clothes was drinking wine while trying to persuade her. "Young mistress, your surname is Tantai. You're the young mistress of the Tantai family, one of the 12 Archean foreign tribes. You were severely injured by the enemy and ended up in this world." In front of him was a lady in red. The lady's eyes were empty, and she stood still like a ghost. Only when the sloppy old Taoist priest mentioned some keywords occasionally would her old-fashioned gaze change slightly. Then, it would become extremely empty again. "Sigh, it's too difficult. It's really too difficult for me." Seeing this scene, the sloppy old Taoist priest's face darkened. He wanted to cry but had no tears. He could not help but subconsciously pick up the gourd on the table to drink a mouthful of wine. However, the wine in the gourd was already finished. He shook it a few times and immediately said, "Layman Yi there's no more wine." "Grandpa Taoist priest, wine, your wine." At that moment, a crisp voice came from afar. Then, a girl about 6 or 7 years old ran over quickly with a gourd in her hand. Behind the little girl was a little boy about 4 or 5 years old and a little girl about 7 or 8 years old. The little boy looked very strong, and he walked as if he was flying. His facial features were 30 to 40% similar to the little girl's. Meanwhile, the little girl's expression was extremely determined. The sloppy old Taoist priest immediately beamed with joy. He reached out to take the gourd in the little girl's hands. "Meng Meng is still the best. You know that Grandpa Taoist priest likes to drink the wine that your grandpa brewed." Who would have thought that the little girl would hide the gourd behind her and pout? "Grandpa Taoist priest, look at how he came all the way here to deliver wine to you. Don't you have anything to say?" "You little girl." The sloppy old Taoist priest's smile froze. Then, he painfully took out a pill and handed it over. Here, it was not the first time that such a scene had happened. Every time, the little girl would eagerly deliver wine to him in exchange for some benefit. Only one? The little girl became more and more unhappy. "Where are my brother and sister Qianqian? Brother and sister Qianqian don't have any. They will cry." Behind her, the little brother scratched his head and smiled. I'm afraid of you. The sloppy old Taoist priest's mouth twitched slightly. He forcibly took out 2 more pills and handed them over. This should be fine, right? Only then did the little girl hand over the gourd full of wine to him. At that moment, Yi Hai walked over from afar and scolded with a straight face, Meng Meng, don't ask your grandpa Taoist priest for food every other day. The little girl nodded and immediately called out to the 2 little fellows behind her to run far away, as if they were children who had done something wrong. Greetings, Taoist priest. Yi Hai nodded at the sloppy old Taoist priest. He then lifted his head to look at the Yi family's villa that was covered in black energy far away. He mumbled, Taoist priest, how long do you think it will take for Yuhan to come out? It's hard to say. The sloppy old Taoist priest wiped his mouth with his sleeve and said in a muffled voice, that girl doesn't have much vitality left. If not for the nether energy that has been sustaining her life, I'm afraid she would have died a long time ago. Chapter 1622. Before Yi Hai could react, the sloppy old Taoist priest put down the wine gourd and disappeared from where he was. Did something happen? Yi Hai's expression changed slightly as he followed immediately. At the same time, outside the Yi family villa, a few figures stood in the air, looking at the crows that covered the sky and the monstrous black energy with serious expressions. It was Yi Chen and the rest. The patriarch of Hell's pupils constricted as he inhaled sharply. What powerful nether energy! However, why would there be such terrifying nether energy in the secular world? Be it demonic energy or nether energy, I'll destroy everything that dares to invade my family. Yi Chen's eyes were cold. He did not expect such a huge change to happen in his family when he went out. He only hoped that his parents, Yuhan, and the rest were fine. Just when he was about to attack, a cursing voice suddenly came from the thick black energy. Which blind guy dares to trespass here? As soon as the voice was heard, the thick fog before Yi Chen and the rest was gradually split into 2. Subsequently, an old Taoist priest with a rosacea nose who was dressed sloppily ran out. The old Taoist priest rolled up his sleeves as if he was going to fight. The sloppy old Taoist priest was shocked when he saw Yi Chen and the rest clearly. Oh my, there are so many people this time. Although he said that, his eyes could not help but flicker. Therefore, he realized that Yi Chen, Yang Tian, and the Patriarch of Hell were all on void refinement. Especially the pressure that Yi Chen was exuding intentionally or unintentionally, it made him feel bone-piercing. Oh my, I really can't underestimate this abandoned planet. There's actually such a young Master Rank 3 Almighty. He mumbled to himself. Yi Chen stared at him fixedly. Who are you? Perfected void refinement. In the secular world outside of Yin Su, especially his own family, there was a perfected void refinement cultivator. At the same time, Yang Tian and the Patriarch of Hell sensed how extraordinary the sloppy old Taoist priest was. They were secretly prepared to attack. It doesn't matter who I am. The sloppy old Taoist rubbed his feet and subconsciously wanted to drink, but he realized that he did not bring any wine with him. He coughed and said, The important thing is that this is not a place for you to barge in. If you know what's good for you, get lost. Don't force me to make a move. Old man, you're quite arrogant in our territory, huh? Yang Tian was enraged. He rolled up his sleeves and roared, Old ancestor, go and *CK him up. The old ancestor Yellow Spring narrowed his eyes and took a step forward. Just when he was about to attack, he heard a surprised voice from the black mist, Little Chen? Yi Chen's eyes flashed, and he looked toward the source of the voice. He saw a familiar figure walking out of the dark house. It was Yi Hai. Yi Chen went forward to hold him immediately. Dad! Uncle! Yang Tian also called out. Seeing this scene, the sloppy old Taoist was instantly stunned. After all this time, it turned out that they were on the same side? Little Chen, don't be rash. This is a misunderstanding. Yi Hai nodded and introduced the scruffy old Taoist. This is Heaven Stepping Taoist, a friend of the Yi family. Don't be rude. Yang Tian was dumbfounded. Even Yi Chen was stunned. This perfect stage void refinement cultivator before him was a friend of the Yi family? Yi Hai ignored him and introduced him to heaven-stepping Taoist directly. Taoist, this is my son, Yi Chen. The scruffy old Taoist coughed a few times and said with an awkward smile, since we're on the same side, that's for the best. Greetings, fellow stepping heaven. Yi Chen clasped his fists at him. Yi Hai said, it's not convenient to talk here. Let's go in first. As they passed through the dense nether energy barrier, Yi Chen could not help but say, Dad, what happened to our family? Something happened to Yuhan. Yi Chen's expression changed when he heard what Yi Hai said. He added immediately, but she's fine for now. Don't worry too much. Subsequently, he slowly told him what happened to the Yi family. It turned out that after Yi Chen went to Yin Su, Meng Meng and the rest of the children were playing in the courtyard. She picked up a black box from somewhere and brought it home. After the black box fell into Su Yuhan's hands, something happened. First, the black box turned into a huge black umbrella that covered the Yi family villa. Then, countless black energy appeared out of thin air and covered the entire Yi family villa. Su Yuhan's old face began to recover rapidly. The black box turned into a big black umbrella? Yi Chen was extremely shocked after hearing that. Yi Hai nodded repeatedly. That black box seems to understand humans. It didn't hurt us. Moreover, it seemed to listen to Yuhan and let us out. Then, it protected Yuhan until now. Yang Tian and the Patriarch of Hell were stunned. At that moment, Heaven Stepping Heaven said, Fellow Yi, have you heard of the mysterious netherworld treasure? Yi Chen's expression changed when he heard that. The mysterious netherworld treasure was the most powerful treasure in the netherworld. It was comparable to a supreme immortal artifact. All of them were in the hands of the netherworld's supreme powerhouses. They could unleash destructive power. He could not help but look at Heaven Stepping Heaven as he thought to this point, are you saying that the black box is the mysterious netherworld treasure? I'm not sure. Heaven Stepping Heaven shook his head slightly. The demonic power that the black box displayed is extremely similar to the legendary mysterious netherworld treasure, but I've never seen it before. At this point, he shook his head again. Moreover, the mysterious netherworld treasure exists in the netherworld. Why would it appear in this world? However, your wife's body is a little special. He glanced at Yi Chen. She has the special trait of having a pure Yin body that's rare in 10,000 years. Unfortunately, she doesn't have much life left. If not for that black umbrella nourishing her body with extremely pure nether energy, I'm afraid she wouldn't have been able to last until you returned. Soon, they passed through the dense, dark house. Yi Chen scanned with his divine consciousness and immediately saw the Yi family villa that was covered in nether energy. With his golden fiery eyes, he saw that the Yi family villa was covered by a huge black umbrella. The black umbrella was extremely mysterious and ancient. It faintly emitted an aura that made Yi Chen's heart palpitate. Yuhan! He shouted and flashed toward the Yi family's villa. Master Taishan's expression immediately changed. Don't get close to it. Boom! Before he could finish speaking, the big black umbrella suddenly shook violently. Subsequently, a terrifying force whizzed toward Yi Chen. Stomp, stomp, stomp. Even though Yi Chen was prepared, he still could not control himself and retreated dozens of meters under such power. He said with a cold gaze, I don't care who you are. If you stop me today, don't blame me for being rude. At that moment, an extremely surprised voice came from the villa. Xiao Ling, don't do anything rash. Let Xiao Chen in. Mommy, is he your man? Subsequently, an extremely young voice was heard. He's so ugly. He doesn't deserve you at all. Chapter 16:23. You're so ugly. You don't deserve me at all. Everyone, including Yi Chen, was shocked as soon as the extremely young voice was heard. Holy sh*t, this big black umbrella can talk? Is it a spirit? Yang Tian's eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. "You're the big black umbrella, you're the real one," that childish voice sounded again. It seemed to be somewhat angry from embarrassment, but it also made people unable to restrain their laughter. Su Yuhan's voice came from the villa again. "Xiaoling, listen to me. Let Xiaochen in." "Mommy, I know." The big black umbrella responded unwillingly. It then retracted its wings slowly and tore a gap. "Only you're allowed to come in. Nobody else is allowed to come in. Otherwise, I won't go easy on you." Yi Chen's eyes flashed and he took a step in. His gaze was attracted by a gigantic black lotus that was hovering on the ground in the house. At that moment, Su Yuhan was sitting in the black lotus. Her white hair had turned black like a waterfall. Even her clothes were black. Yi Chen walked over by instinct and held her hand tightly. "Yuhan, are you all right?" "Xiaochen, I'm fine." Su Yuhan looked at him excitedly. "She looked much better than before. I thought it would be a while before I came back." Yi Chen secretly transferred some spiritual power to check on her injuries. He realized that she had recovered a lot. Although it was not comparable to an ordinary person, it was much better than before. What exactly happened? He secretly heaved a sigh of relief and asked while frowning. Su Yuhan smiled lightly and looked at the big black umbrella that covered the villa. She said, "It's all thanks to Xiaoling. Xiaoling prolonged my life." "Who is Xiaoling?" Yi Chen's eyes flickered. Su Yuhan shook her head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry upon hearing that. She said, "Xiaoling said she was my weapon in my previous life. She called me mommy as soon as she saw me. I really couldn't resist her. She was my mommy." Xiaoling's childish voice was heard again. "Mommy, you were very powerful in your previous life. You could kill this guy with a single breath." The speaker did not mean it, but the listener did. Yi Chen moved and could not help but shake his head lightly. Clearly, Su Yuhan, who was once the lord of the underworld, had finally awakened. The weapon that was in charge of her previous life would not find her by chance. However, for some unknown reason, the more this was the case, the more he didn't want it to be like this. He would rather his woman be an ordinary woman, and not the lord of the netherworld or the Azura king. "Little Ling, don't say such things to Little Chen." Su Yuhan's expression turned cold. She was rather upset. "Lil Chen is the best man in my life. If you respect me, you have to respect him." "Yes, Mom, Little Ling knows she's wrong." Little Ling's tone was stifled, and she felt very wronged. Yi Chen looked at Su Yuhan with a complicated expression. "Yuhan, have you recalled your past life's memory?" Meeting his gaze, Su Yuhan was stunned at first. She subsequently shook her head and said, "I can't remember. Xiao Ling told me these few days, but I can't remember." "That's good." Yi Chen heaved a sigh of relief, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. If Su Yuhan were to awaken the Lord of the Netherworld's memory, it would be hard to say if Su Yuhan's consciousness would be in control or the Lord of the Netherworld's consciousness would be in control. Seeming to sense his worry, Su Yuhan suddenly held his hand and said in extreme seriousness, "Don't worry, Xiaochen. No matter what I become, I'll always be Su Yuhan." "Sure." Yi Chen nodded hard. "Mom, it's time to rest." Little Ling could not help but urge, "Don't talk too much. Otherwise, you'll waste too much energy. Get him out now." Yi Chen could tell that Su Yuhan was rather tired, so he could not help but say, "Yuhan, take a rest first. I brought something that can prolong your life. Don't worry, I won't let anything happen to you." He got up and walked out immediately after saying that. In 9 Dragons Bay, Yi Chen and Taoist priest Tatian sat across each other. There was a lady in red with lifeless eyes standing before them. Meanwhile, a little girl was snuggling in Yi Chen's embrace. The little girl hugged Yi Chen's neck and extended her arm to pull his beard. "Daddy, you're finally back. I thought you didn't want me anymore. Did you miss Daddy?" Yi Chen could not help but kiss her cheek. He had to admit that the little girl had changed a lot even though it had only been half a month since they last met. First, her cultivation base had entered mastery stage nascent soul. Secondly, she was even more beautiful now. She was a real beauty. I did. The little girl could not stop nodding. Yi Chen then glanced at the silly boy who was standing aside and looking at him suspiciously. He said, "You brat, don't you recognize Daddy anymore?" It was Yi Ming. It had been almost 2 months since the little girl was born. Due to the fact that she was born with extraordinary conditions and had a good living condition, she looked no different from a 3-year-old even though she was not even a year old. She looked like a tiger. At that moment, she was peeking at Yi Chen from afar secretly. She seemed to be afraid of him. "Unfilial son, get over here now." Yi Chen was furious. He sucked through the air and grabbed the little girl while ignoring her resistance. The little fellow was forced into a corner and actually bit down on his hand. Smack! Yi Chen slapped his buttocks. His attitude toward his daughter and son was completely different. He owed his daughter, Meng, too much. Since she was mature and sensible, he would spoil her as much as he could. However, his son, Yi Ming, was different. He had been living in Su Yuhan's room for so long. One could say that he was the reason why Su Yuhan ended up like this. The little girl cried immediately. His mother, Wu Lan, came over when she heard the crying. She glared at Yi Chen. "You're bullying your son as soon as you come back. You're really something." Yi Chen smiled awkwardly. His mother carried her grandson and walked far away. She tried to comfort him. Yi Chen could not help but glance at Hong Xiu, who was not moving at all. He said to Taoist Master Tatian, "Fellow Tatian, did you say that Hong Xiu is your family's young mistress?" From Yi Hai's description, he roughly knew that the patriarch of Tatian had come to take Hong Xiu away when he was not in the Yi family. However, Hong Xiu only listened to Yi Chen and Meng Meng's orders. Naturally, she ignored what the others said. Helpless, Taoist Master Tatian could only stay in the Yi residence. Although he was a cultivator at peak void refinement, he did not put on airs. His only hobby was drinking. Meanwhile, Yi Hai had nothing to do, so he planted many fruit trees in 9 Dragons Bay. He had figured out a supreme-grade wine brewing method on his own. "That's right." Taoist Master Tatian took a sip of the wine and nodded lightly. "I believe fellow Yi can tell that I'm not from this world." Chapter 1624. Yi Chen nodded lightly. Taoist Master Tatian said slowly, "To be honest, I'm from a foreign land. Thousands of years ago, my clan's young mistress went missing. The clan ordered me to look for her. I've been to many places, but I didn't expect to find the young mistress in this starfield. Perhaps this is what it means to wear out iron shoes in vain." He sighed as he spoke to this point. Yi Chen frowned slightly. "Since you're the clan's young mistress, why did you appear in this world and become like this?" Hong Xiu had drifted down from the Moon Palace after the spiritual energy recovery on Earth. At that time, she had been sealed in an ice coffin. Although she had woken up later on, she had no consciousness and was no different from a puppet. "I'd like to know too." Taoist Master Tatian could not help but shake his head and squint slightly. "I can only help the young mistress recover her consciousness and bring her back to the clan." He clasped his fists at Yi Chen as he spoke to this point, "So, I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you in the Yi residence." "That's nothing. You can stay as long as you want. If you need my help, I'm willing to do whatever I can." Yi Chen shook his head and smiled. Taoist Master Tatian, who was at peak void refinement, addressed Hong Xiu as young mistress. From this, it could be seen that his background was extraordinary. It was naturally worth it to befriend such a person. Moreover, he was not worried that Taoist Master Tatian would attack the Yi family while he was away. After all, Hong Xiu only listened to him and Meng. "Oh right, fellow Yi." Taoist Master Tatian seemed to have thought of something and suddenly said coldly, "I noticed that the young mistress has been refined as a zombie. May I ask who it was?" There was a hint of killing intent between his brows. "It's the Gu family." Yi Chen was slightly stunned. He then told him what happened, including how the Gu family controlled Hong Xiu and tried to kill him. I see. Taoist Master Tatian narrowed his eyes and said with a cold smirk, "A mere Gu family dares to be so bold? I'll remember this." In the secret chamber of the Yi residence, after Yi Chen lifted his hand to set up the formation, he waved his sleeve. A dazzling divine item shot out of his storage ring. As soon as the divine object appeared, it tried to escape. However, it crashed heavily into the formation barrier and bounced back again. Then, it turned into a snow-white little beast that bared its teeth at Yi Chen. It was the 5 elements heavenly lotus. "This fellow is quite cunning." Yi Chen pointed a finger and controlled it. His eyes were like rainbows as he said, "It's a pity that I went through so much trouble to obtain it. How can I let you escape so easily? If you know what's good for you, then listen obediently. I might leave behind your spirit root and nurture it. Who knows, maybe one day you'll be reborn," Yi Chen said confidently while looking at it. With a command in his heart, an enormous cauldron appeared in front of him. The cauldron was inscribed with ancient divine runes. It was a shaman cauldron. "I'm afraid my current true origin energy cultivation base isn't enough to refine the longevity pill this time. I'll need the help of the shaman cauldron." Yi Chen's eyes flashed. He waved his sleeve again, and dense medicinal herbs surged out of his storage ring continuously. They hovered above him. Judging by the number, there were probably no less than 100 types. The moment these medicinal herbs appeared, the entire secret chamber was filled with a rich medicinal fragrance. Clearly, these medicinal herbs were not ordinary. Only an existence like the longevity pill would require so many medicinal ingredients. Yi Chen opened his mouth and spat. A golden flame whizzed out immediately. The golden flame split into 9 and shot into the 9 vents of the shaman cauldron, releasing a shocking temperature. "Everything's ready. Let's begin." He took a deep breath in and pushed his energy to its peak. A bright light exploded in his eyes, and he grabbed at the air with both hands. The hundreds of medicinal herbs were thrown into the shaman cauldron in an orderly manner. As soon as these medicinal herbs were thrown into the shaman cauldron, the 9 fire dragons in the cauldron roared and swallowed them in one gulp. The flames on their bodies became even more glaring. Without hesitation, Yi Chen split his divine telekinesis into 9 and enveloped the medicinal herbs. He controlled the 9 fire dragons to begin refining the medicinal properties. At the same time, outside the secret chamber, Yang Tian and the Patriarch of Hell were on high alert. They focused on guarding Yi Chen's secret chamber to prevent any accidents from happening. Refining medicinal pills required concentration, and it was taboo to be disturbed by external forces, especially when it came to something like the longevity pill that had an extremely low success rate. In order to avoid arousing suspicion, Taoist Master Tatian chose to retreat far away. After all, he was an outsider after all, and he knew that Yang Tian and the Patriarch of Hell were guarding against him. The longevity pill, Tatian stayed in the clouds, drinking as he looked down and mumbled, "This medicinal pill has a very strict requirement for the density of true origin energy. If this brat doesn't enter the divine separation stage, what's the difference between succeeding and ascending to heaven?" In the Yi family villa that was shrouded by the big black umbrella, Xiaoling was also paying attention to the direction of Yi Chen's secret chamber. She could not help but say, "Mommy, do you think that guy will succeed? After all, the longevity pill isn't something that anyone can refine." "I believe that Xiaochen will succeed," Su Yuhan smiled lightly. Su Yuhan smiled faintly. Her beautiful eyes were filled with deep trust and happiness. Time passed bit by bit. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. The secret chamber where Yi Chen was still extremely quiet. On the 3rd day, the true origin energy above the Yi family villa suddenly became a little violent. Under the violent energy of heaven and earth, a rich pill fragrance spread out, causing everyone to feel 100 times more energetic. Everyone was overjoyed when they sensed the change. Is he going to succeed? The Patriarch of Heaven, in particular, had a look of disbelief on his face. This is a sign of pill formation. This brat didn't enter the divine separation stage, but he managed to persevere to this stage. His true origin energy and divine consciousness are actually so condensed? Fuse. At the same time, Yi Chen's expression remained the same in the secret chamber. He did not dare to relax at all, even though a medicinal pill was gradually taking shape before him. After a long period of refinement, his spiritual power had already reached a state of exhaustion, and his face was slightly pale. As he mumbled, incomparably mysterious hand seals were formed one after another. All of his divine consciousness suppressed the medicinal pill that was about to dissipate, and the medicinal power fused with it. Boom! At that moment, an extremely dazzling white light shot out from the witch cauldron. It shot into the sky like a pillar of light that supported the sky. At the same time, the medicinal fragrance that enveloped heaven and earth became extremely dense. The fusion is a success. Everyone's faces were filled with ecstasy. The Patriarch of Heaven took a deep breath in. Amazing. You've done everything that I can. The next step is to form the pill. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly looked at the end of the sky as if he had sensed something. There were several powerful auras rushing over. Chapter 16:25. At the same time, in the depths of the void less than 10 miles away from Nine Dragons Bay, two figures descended one after another. The deliberately restrained aura still caused the clouds to tremble. A white man with red hair and an evil smile looked at the burly man with blonde hair and blue eyes beside him with a serious expression. "Paul, you also felt that aura?" "My most respected Sir Carl." The blonde Carlo smiled and closed his eyes to savor the taste. "This smell is too wonderful. I suspect that the elixir mentioned in the Eastern myths is about to be born." "That's mine." Carl frowned slightly, as if he was not happy. "Sir Carl, you're being too absolute." Following a chuckle, an extremely handsome Western man wearing a trench coat appeared out of thin air. Deathwing Leonte. Carl and Paul's pupils constricted violently. Then, more figures descended in front of them one after another. Ruling Swords Leader, Whiskey. Ice and Fire Goddess Evelyn. India's Living Buddha, Hades. Carl and the others' expressions changed again and again. Among these people, there were some that Carl and the others did not know. However, without exception, they were all peerless powerhouses in the Western countries. Any one of them could shake the world with just a stomp of their feet. They didn't expect that they would all be gathered here today. My God! Carl's heart was going crazy. The world's 7 most terrifying transcendental existences have all descended. This is unbelievable, simply unbelievable. You guys came just in time. Emperor Paul smiled slightly. However, aren't you worried that the strongest powerhouses in the Chinese Holy Land will attack? The Chinese Holy Land Yin Su can't even take care of himself right now. How can he care about us? Ruling Swords Leader, Whiskey, raised his eyebrows. I was originally sleeping, but this elixir that is about to be born in the East woke me up. My intuition tells me that if I obtain this elixir, I will definitely be able to return to my peak. Then let's see who is more capable. The Ice and Fire Goddess Evelyn smiled coldly. The clouds under her feet instantly vaporized, and then immediately turned into an ice dragon at a speed visible to the naked eye. It actually carried her towards Nine Dragons Bay. The elixir is mine. I'll kill whoever dares to snatch it from me. India's lively Hades was compassionate. Behind him was a 15 or 16-year-old novice monk. The novice monk was an Asian. He did not say a word, but his gaze was extremely cold. When the others saw this, they no longer hesitated and turned into long streaks of light that shot out in an extremely high-profile manner. Above Nine Dragons Bay, the rich pill fragrance became even more alluring, shocking countless living beings in the surroundings. If it was not for the fact that they were afraid of the powerful auras of Heaven Trampler and the others, They might have lost control a long time ago. Heaven Tatian gazed at the sky in the distance. The expressions of Yang Tian and the Patriarch of Hell, who were guarding Yi Chen, changed slightly when they sensed his abnormality. Clearly, they realized something. You guys stand guard, I'll go meet them. At the critical moment, Heaven Trampler took a sip of wine, and then his body flashed before he vanished on the spot. Which thief dares to trespass this place? Hurry up and leave. Heaven Trampler shouted as he looked at the gigantic ice dragon that was charging at him. A loud thud was heard, and the gigantic ice dragon shattered. The goddess of ice and fire, Evelyn, who was above it, flew out with a low groan. She looked at Heaven Trampler with a serious expression after she finally stabilized herself. Eastern powerhouses? India's living Buddha, Hadus, appeared immediately. He squinted at Heaven Trampler, and a solemn avatar rose faintly behind him. Karl, Emperor Paul, and the rest appeared at the same time. So, they're all Western powerhouses. Heaven Trampler came to a realization. He had traveled to Earth before when he was guarding the Yi family, so he knew Earth quite well. The only thing that made him frown was that among the 7 people before him, 3 of them were exuding auras that were on par with his. Esteemed Eastern powerhouses. Leonte, the wings of death, licked his lips and grinned evilly. We just sensed that there's a bloody disaster here, so we came to check it out to see if we can help you. A bloody disaster? The rest were stunned at first when they heard that. Then, they came back to their senses and secretly cursed Leonte for being shameless. It was supposed to be a treasure light rising into the sky. Yet, he said that it was a bloody disaster. That's right. Witsi, the leader of Ruling Sword, said kindly, We have no ill intentions. Please let us go and take a look, sir. I've long heard that you Westerners are shameless. Now that I've seen it for myself, you really do live up to your reputation. Heaven Trampler smiled too. There's no bloody disaster here, so I don't need your help. Please leave. Sir, since you don't know what's good for you, don't blame me. India's living Buddha, Hadus, shook his head slightly. As the saying goes, if I don't go to hell, who will? Boom! The gigantic avatar behind him put its palms together like a golden Buddha. A terrifying pressure immediately attacked Heaven Trampler. Attack, kill this old man first. Patriarch, there's a fight over there. Yang Tian, who was guarding Yi Chen, said with a slight change of expression, Heaven Trampler is a perfect stage void refinement cultivator after all. It seems like he's not here with good intentions since he's able to cause such a commotion. Don't worry about it for now. The Patriarch of Hell's eyes flickered as he said, The most important task now is to ensure that fellow Yi successfully refines the longevity pill. Otherwise, all our previous efforts will be wasted. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly raised his head. Boom! A muffled sound abruptly rang out in the sky. Endless thunderclouds gathered in that direction, enveloping the entire sky above the 9 dragons' bay within. The thunderclouds rumbled, vast and boundless. The entire sky seemed to have been split into countless pieces, and every single piece was covered in gorgeous colors. A shocking heavenly might was being emitted from them. My God! At that moment, the 7 people from the west who were fighting suddenly raised their head. When they saw the phenomenon above them, they revealed shocked expressions. Pill lightning, Heaven Trampler's heart skipped a beat, and his expression finally changed. That brat actually succeeded. At the same time, countless people in Lin City witnessed this shocking scene. They were so shocked that they seemed to have turned into stone. Any one of the terrifying bolts of lightning in the sky would probably kill a large number of people. The world instantly fell into dead silence. Under everyone's gazes, the thunderclouds in the sky became denser and denser. In the end, just a trace of heavenly might was enough to make Heaven Trampler and the rest feel extremely pressured. Divine pill, Heaven Trampler seemed to have thought of something. His eyes widened as he mumbled, Divine pill, this is the talent of a divine pill. As soon as he finished speaking, his expression changed. Since ancient times, all those who achieved divine pills were top-notch alchemists whose names shook the cultivation world. This brat. Chapter 1626. Divine Pill. Fellow Yi actually managed to refine a divine pill. He was not the only one. Even the Patriarch of Hell sucked in a breath of cold air. Although Yang Tian was shocked by the terror of the thunderclouds, he did not know what a divine pill was. He could not help but ask, "Patriarch, what is a divine pill?" A divine pill, the Patriarch of Hell revealed a yearning expression. It's an existence second only to an immortal pill. It has the effect of defying the heavens and changing one's fate. Usually, a single pill can cause a huge commotion in the cultivation world, defying the heavens and changing one's fate. Yang Tian was dumbfounded. "I'm more worried about how fellow Yi will survive this pill lightning." The Patriarch of Hell sighed faintly. Even a spirit-severing powerhouse wouldn't dare to take the pill lightning of a divine pill head-on. Although fellow Ye's physical body is powerful, at the same time in the Yi family villa. At that moment, Su Yuhan sat up in shock. "Xiaoling, what's happening outside?" Although she could not see the outside world, she could still hear the majestic voice that sounded like the might of the heavens. Xiaoling was silent for a few seconds before saying with a complicated expression, "Mom, that guy managed to refine a divine pill." Su Yuhan was overjoyed. "Did Xiaochen succeed?" "It's still early." Xiaoling could not help but say, "Mom, this divine pill can only be determined after being baptized by the pill lightning. However, even a spirit-severing powerhouse wouldn't dare to take the pill lightning head-on." "What?" Su Yuhan's pretty face changed. "Xiaoling, can you help Yi Chen? I know you have a way." Although she did not want to part ways with Yi Chen, it did not mean that she was willing to watch Yi Chen endure so much danger for her. "Mom," Xiaoling wanted to say something but hesitated. "I can't help him. I just woke up not long ago, and my vitality hasn't recovered yet. Moreover, in order to extend your life, I've exhausted my remaining Xianming energy. Now, it's up to him." Rumble. Under the majestic heavenly might, Yi Chen, who was sitting in the secret room, opened his eyes slowly. He glanced at the longevity pill that was as dazzling as the sun before him. He then slowly raised his head and looked through everything, staring straight at the violent thunderclouds in the sky. At the next moment, with a flick of his finger, the longevity pill shot straight up into the sky, as if he was ready to welcome the baptism of the terrifying thunderclouds. Even though a large portion of the pill lightning would be absorbed by the longevity pill, a portion of it would still dissipate, causing a destructive blow to everything around it. "Old ancestor, old Yang, retreat 10 miles away." After saying that, Yi Chen took a step forward and soared into the sky. Thunderclouds hovered above his head as he stepped into the void. At this moment, countless gazes gathered on him. They felt that he was like a god. "What is he doing?" The 7 Western cultivators stared at his back in disbelief. "Is he planning to take on this terrifying heavenly tribulation?" Immortal pill. Someone glanced greedily at the longevity pill hovering above Yi Chen's head. If they were not afraid of the pill thunder, they would have snatched it from him. "Crazy, this kid must be crazy." Tatian shook his head. Even a soul-splitting grand cultivator would not be able to withstand the pill thunder. Crackle, with a loud bang, a bolt of lightning tore through the sky, illuminating the world as if it was daytime. Then, it landed ruthlessly on the longevity pill with a destructive force. "Pah!" After the longevity pill was enveloped by endless lightning, it trembled violently. Suddenly, there was a crisp sound, and a crack appeared on the surface of its body. "It's broken!" Yang Tian almost vomited blood when he saw that. He knew very well that Yi Chen had put in a lot of effort to refine this thing. Now it was broken? No! The Patriarch of Hell's pupils constricted, as if he recalled something. He immediately said, "It's only the pill robe that's broken. The pill embryo is still intact." Boom! Another round of pill lightning struck down one after another. Under everyone's gaze, the crack grew larger and larger. In the end, it fell off automatically, revealing a red halo. From afar, it looked like a red sun was born from the lightning. It was extremely dazzling and resplendent. "It's done." The Patriarch of Hell was overjoyed. Before everyone could react, a tall and straight figure actually took the initiative to meet the vast and mighty thunderclouds. As the thunderclouds churned, a 5-colored bolt of lightning descended like a giant python, whistling toward the figure. "This Easterner must be crazy," someone among the 7 Western powerhouses shouted. However, in the next moment, the 5-colored lightning did not cause any damage to Yi Chen's body after landing on him. Instead, it turned into lightning that flowed rapidly through his limbs and meridians. Eventually, it turned into a 5-colored lightning pattern on the surface of Yi Chen's body. How is this possible? This time, even Heaven Trampler was startled. The Patriarch of Hell narrowed his eyes and mumbled, "Fellow Yi, are you absorbing the pill thunder to strengthen your already heaven-defying body?" In reality, he was only half right. Yi Chen was using the pill thunder to repair his body. After he fell from the immortal world to the mortal world, his body passed through the barrier of the 33 heavens and was severely injured. If he did not have a fortuitous encounter, it would be as difficult as ascending to heaven to recover. However, the terrifying pill thunder that even spirit-severing almighties were afraid of was perfect. The pill thunder would reactivate the potential of his body. Boom, boom, boom. The gorgeous lightning was like a roaring dragon. Bolts of lightning flew wildly and landed on Yi Chen, who was in the air. Everyone was in disbelief. How could a human's body be so strong that it was not afraid of heavenly lightning? As the silver lightning exploded on Yi Chen's body, it turned into countless lightning snakes that entered his body through the pores all over his body. They quickly healed his injured body. The scene lasted for an hour before it dissipated. In the end, everyone was surprised to discover that Yi Chen's body was covered in dense lightning patterns. The lightning patterns were like lightning that was sealed in his body. It seemed like they could explode at any time. On the other hand, every piece of bronze-colored skin seemed to have accumulated enough power to destroy the world. It was terrifying. "I've finally recovered to a low-grade god body." Yi Chen's body, which had not moved for a long time, finally swayed. His eyes were like lightning as he said in a carefree manner, "Low-grade god body. With just my physical body, I can even fight against a spirit-severing stage cultivator." Above the god body was the immortal body. At his peak, his physical body was known as the indestructible immortal body. Now that he had recovered to a low-grade body, he was not far from an immortal body. At this moment, an urgent voice suddenly sounded, "Attack!" At the next moment, several figures with powerful auras attacked at the same time. With lightning speed, they charged towards the longevity pill in the air. End of this chapter. Chapter 1627. Boom. As the cold voice fell, the entire place was suddenly covered by an extremely sharp whistling sound. Rumble. At that moment, the 7 Western powerhouses finally could not help but attack. They attacked Yi Chen together. They wanted to snatch the longevity pill. To them, although Yi Chen was fine after bathing in the pill lightning, he was probably at the end of his rope. "You're courting death." The Patriarch of Hell narrowed his eyes and shouted, "So you want to snatch the longevity pill? You really don't know what's good for you." He was about to attack after saying that. "Patriarch, you guys retreat." At the right time, Yi Chen's voice was heard slowly. His eyes shot into the sky and captured the 7 people's whereabout. "I'll use you guys to test my physical body today." He smiled faintly. In the next moment, he took a step forward and shot into the sky like a rocket. With a resplendent glow, he charged at the living Buddha of India, Hadis, who was leading the group. "Ignorant Easterner, hand over the immortal pill and I'll spare your life." The living Buddha of India, Hadis, lifted the glaring Vajra avatar into the sky. It closed its palms gently, and an earth-shattering Buddhist light charged at Yi Chen like thousands of sword gleams. Yi Chen placed his hands behind his back and ignored the attack directly. Subsequently, he slapped with his palm, and the giant golden palm smashed down. Boom! Under that palm, the living Buddha of India and the glaring Vajra avatar were forcefully shattered, turning into countless pieces of blood and broken bones that scattered everywhere. Under that palm, killing a peak void refinement cultivator. Seeing this scene, the pupils of the 6 Western people who were the last to fall constricted violently, and an endless chill rose in their hearts. Damn it, this person is so terrifying. The wings of death, Leonte, cursed softly with an ugly expression. A pair of golden wings suddenly grew on his back, and he turned around and ran without saying a word. Trying to run? Just as he retreated, he was shocked to discover that the space beside him suddenly distorted violently. Then, he saw a terrifying fist mixed with lightning whistling over. Boom! Leonte screamed and was immediately smashed into meat paste by the punch. It's a misunderstanding, Your Excellency Mad Southern Yi, this is a misunderstanding. Ruling Swords leader, Witsi, was already scared out of his wits. He screamed in horror, "Let me go. I swear I'll never step into the East." Cut the crap. Yi Chen looked cold. You trespassed into China and tried to kill me. Today, I'll use your blood to shake the dignity of China. As soon as he finished speaking, he pressed his palm down. The space within a radius of 10,000 feet around Witsi had completely collapsed. Witsi's body was no longer there, and all that was left was a thick stench of blood. Another person died. The ice and fire goddess, Evelyn, was completely terrified. She screamed, "Mad Southern Yi, if you kill me, Greece won't let this go. Then we'll destroy Greece as well." Yi Chen slammed his palm down and destroyed his body on the spot. He took another step out and charged at the remaining 3 people. In just a few short breaths, the shrill screams died down, and all that was left was dead silence. At that moment, the world was incomparably silent. All that was left was a figure standing proudly in the void. He was dressed in black and had long hair. Divine light shone resplendently around him, making him look like a deity that had descended to the mortal world. Monster, this guy is really a monster. Old Taoist Master Tatian, who was standing far away, had goosebumps all over his body. He cultivated his body to the inferior grade god body at such a young age. Even the so-called geniuses of the primordial tribes would pale in comparison to him, wouldn't they? He could not help but feel extremely lucky. He was lucky that he did not do anything to Yi Chen's family earlier. Otherwise, he might have died here today. Thank you for protecting me, fellow Tatian. Yi Chen glanced at old Taoist Master Tatian and smiled lightly. He then turned around to look at the longevity pill that stood quietly in the air. There was a hint of passion in his eyes. It had been 3 days and 3 nights. The longevity pill was finally done. He grabbed the longevity pill from afar and slowly landed in front of the Yi residence's villa after grabbing it in his hand. This time, Xiao Ling opened the entrance without Su Yuhan's instruction and let Yi Chen in. She had witnessed Yi Chen's potential in this battle. Therefore, she could not say anything more jealous. "Yuhan, I did it." Yi Chen walked to Su Yuhan quickly and handed the longevity pill in his hand to her. "Take it now. It can increase your lifespan by 500 years. Su Yuhan did not reach out to take it. Instead, she looked at him quietly for a while and suddenly threw herself into his embrace. "You almost scared me to death just now," I thought. Her delicate body trembled lightly. She could not bear to let go of Yi Chen, as if Yi Chen would leave her as soon as she let go. When the pill lightning had descended, she had learned from Xiao Ling just how dangerous it was. I'm fine now." Yi Chen patted her back and said while smiling, "I have such a beautiful wife and a pair of children. How can I bear to die?" Su Yuhan snickered. Although she knew that Yi Chen was comforting her, she still smiled sincerely and said, "Thank you, Xiao Chen. Take the pill. I'll stand guard outside for you." Yi Chen stood up and walked out of the villa after saying that. Xiao Ling closed the tunnel again. The Patriarch of Hell finally could not help but walk over and say, "Fellow Yi, why do I feel that your body seems to have become stronger again?" Yang Tian even reached out to feel his skin. Yi Chen slapped his perverted hand away and said while smiling, "My body is comparable to a low-grade god body now. I can even fight a soul-splitting cultivator." Although old ancestor Yellow Spring was mentally prepared for this, he still could not help but gasp when he heard those words. Whoosh! At the same time, Taoist Master Tatian landed on the ground. However, he was carrying a young monk in his hand. The young monk was around 12 or 13 years old. He wore a black monk robe and had a scar on his head. He struggled with all his might. "Let go of me! Let go of me!" Taoist Master Tatian threw the young monk to the ground. "Fellow Yi, this brat has been sneaking around outside. I thought he was suspicious, so I captured him." Yi Chen lifted his head to look at the young monk. The smile on his face gradually froze, and it was soon replaced by surprise. He took a step forward and stared at the young monk. His voice was slightly hoarse as he said, "Why, you're Lin Xiao?" The young man before him looked 70% similar to Lin Tai. If not for his young age, Yi Chen would have thought that Lin Tai had been resurrected. There could only be one explanation. He was Lin Tai's posthumous son, Lin Xiao. Yi Chen was the one who named him, but it was lost later on. He did not expect to be reunited like this. Yang Tian was stunned at first when he heard what Yi Chen said. He then said excitedly, "He's Lin Tai's son?" After saying that, he immediately walked towards the young monk, as if he wanted to pick him up and take a good look at him. Unexpectedly, the young monk took a few steps back in fear. Then, he looked at Yi Chen and Yang Tian with hatred. End of this chapter. Chapter 1628. Yi Chen secretly frowned. He saw hatred in Lin Zhao's eyes. It was an undisguised hatred, as if he, Yi Chen, was the enemy who killed his father. "Brat, what's wrong with your eyes?" Yang Tian did not know what to do, so he forcefully grabbed him up and slapped his butt. "Let me go!" Lin Xiao struggled violently, his eyes filled with hatred. "You guys killed my father. I'll never forgive you." Yang Tian's body froze when he heard that. Lin Xiao took the opportunity to struggle out of his embrace. He turned around and was about to run when the Patriarch of Hell stopped him. The Patriarch of Hell turned to look at Yi Chen. "Fellow Yi, is this brat really Lin Tai's son?" "There's no mistake." Yi Chen nodded lightly and looked at Lin Xiao subsequently. "To you, did we kill your father?" Lin Xiao did not say a word and merely looked at him hatefully. "Brat." Yang Tian suddenly gave him a slap and shouted angrily, "Your father followed old Yi all those years ago, and old Yi never owed him anything. In the end, he betrayed old Yi and almost caused old Yi to lose his kin." Back then, when Shang Santian descended on the Yi residence, they could only capture Lin Tai's woman and threaten Lin Tai to open and destroy the formation because they were afraid of the formation that Yi Chen had set up. It was also because of this that Shang Santian charged straight in, catching the Yi family off guard and causing heavy losses. Although Lin Tai came to his senses and risked his life to protect the Yi family members as they escaped, Yi Chen's heart ached for a long time. Later on, Yi Chen summoned his soul back and nurtured it in the Fengdu ghost region. He wanted him to walk the path of a ghost cultivator. He did not expect Lin Xiao to treat him as the enemy who killed his father. Hearing Yang Tian's words, Lin Xiao only looked at him with incomparable hatred, as if he could not change his attitude. "I'll beat you to death." Yang Tian pretended to hit him. "Forget it." Yi Chen stopped him and picked Lin Xiao up. He walked into the secret chamber and said while looking at him, "Do you miss your father?" Lin Xiao looked at him and nodded in the end. He lost his parents as soon as he was born. Although Yi Wen and the rest took care of him, he ran away from home after finding out about what happened back then. He wandered to India and was taken in as a personal acolyte by India's living Buddha, Hadis. All right. Yi Chen lifted his hand to set up the gathering formation. Subsequently, he waved his sleeve, and a black shadow appeared in the secret room. The black silhouette gradually transformed into a pale-looking middle-aged man. It was Lin Tai who had turned into a ghost cultivator. Supreme Lord. Lin Tai knelt on one knee by instinct when he saw Yi Chen. He seemed to be excited. Yi Chen glanced at Lin Xiao next to him after helping him up. He said with a forced smile, "Look at who this is." In reality, even without his reminder, Lin Xiao had already noticed it. His young eyes were wide open as he looked at Lin Tai in disbelief. Meanwhile, Lin Tai looked at him by instinct. His body froze and his lips were trembling. "Hi, Lord." He suddenly turned his head to look at Yi Chen and stammered, He's my, that's right. He's your child." Yi Chen nodded lightly and said, "After you died back then, your woman died too. Fortunately, we arrived in time and found the fetus in her stomach. We saved this child. I named him Lin Xiao personally and handed him over to Yi Wen and the rest to raise." At this point, he smiled and did not say anything else. Lin Tai could not hold it in anymore. He pounced over as if he wanted to hug Lin Xiao. Unfortunately, he was a ghost and had no physical form. He passed through Lin Xiao's body directly. When the father and son met, they were separated by yin and yang. It was inevitable that they would feel lonely. Yi Chen shook his head and flicked his finger. A spiritual energy seed landed on Lin Tai immediately. "You two can catch up. I won't disturb you guys anymore." After saying that, he walked out of the secret room and left the space for the father and son. Yang Tian could not help but welcome him when he saw him come out. He said rather guiltily, "Old Yi, he's a child after all. Don't be too." He was worried that Yi Chen would be angry. Yi Chen said in between tears and laughter, "What kind of person do you think I am? Are you a narrow-minded person? However, it's a blessing to be able to find this brat." Yang Tian grinned. "Other than Yo Qingshan, Old Chen, and the rest, all of us are about to reunite. Old Nyo and the rest must be growing up soon." Yi Chen lifted his eyes to look at the sky. He immediately sensed the few auras in the sky. He said while smiling sincerely, "It's time to help Yuhan enter the Tao after she recovers." Then, Lin Tai. Yang Tian hesitated to speak. Lin Tai has already embarked on the path of a ghost cultivator. Yi Chen shook his head lightly. He can only walk this path until the end. Fortunately, he's already at the perfect stage, ghost nascent stage now. He'll be able to show himself when he gets to the corporeal yang stage. He won't be afraid of the sun anymore. Ghost cultivators were different from orthodox cultivators. There was no turning back once they made their choice. That was also Lin Tai's choice. Soon Yi Chen sensed that the formation in the secret chamber was trembling slightly. He appeared in the secret chamber with a flick of his body. Lin Tai and his son's eyes were red. Clearly they had cried. After all, it was their first time reuniting. Yi Chen looked at Lin Xiao wryly and said, "Brat, do you still treat me as the person who killed your father now?" Lin Xiao buried his head in guilt. "Lin Xiao, kneel before my lord." Lin Tai shouted all of a sudden. Lin Xiao dared not hesitate and knelt hard before Yi Chen immediately. Yi Chen frowned. "Lin Tai, what are you doing?" Lin Tai looked at Lin Xiao with a dignified expression. "I made a huge mistake when I was alive. Fortunately, my lord didn't abandon me and gave me a new life. You'll have to repay my debt in the future. From now on, you must treat my lord as your everything. Even if you die, you're not allowed to frown. Do you remember that?" Lin Xiao nodded hard, his eyes slightly red. "Dad, I'll remember that. I'll listen to my lord." "Why do you have to do this?" Yi Chen sighed softly. "I've treated you as my brother since a long time ago. We're no longer master and servant. Your son is my son. I don't need this. A master is a master, a servant is a servant, Lin Tai said stubbornly. Forget it. Yi Chen could not argue with him, so he said, You're already at the perfect stage ghost nascent stage now. Get ready. I'll pick a land of extreme Yin for you to help you get to the corporeal yang stage. As for this brat, he looked at Lin Xiao and checked the latter's physique. He could not help but say while smiling, This brat has great potential. I can't believe that he has dual metal and wood spiritual roots. He's a good seedling to become a alchemist and a blacksmith. No matter if it was a blacksmith or a alchemist, they could not live without fire. Therefore, cultivators needed to have a fire spiritual root. That way, they would be the most sensitive to the fire energy between heaven and earth. The corresponding fire spell comprehension ability would be more powerful than cultivators with spiritual roots of other attribute. End of this chapter. Chapter 1629. On the land of China. A huge black shadow flitted across the clouds at high speed, and a figure was sitting on top of it at the moment. Yuhan has consumed the longevity pill. I'm afraid she'll need a few days to completely refine it. Yi Chen sat on the 9-eagle phoenix and looked at the mountains, rivers, and land that were flying past below him. He mumbled, I might as well use this time to find a place of extreme Yin for Lin Tai. Lin Tai was loyal to him and died for him. He was even willing to become a ghost cultivator to follow him. Since that was the case, how could Yi Chen remain indifferent? The 9-eagle phoenix spoke in human language, Master, we'll cross the border of China if we go any further south. Now that it had stepped into void refinement, it was extremely respectful to Yi Chen. It knew very well that if not for Yi Chen, it would probably still be guarding the door for others. Yi Chen scanned the ground with his divine consciousness and suddenly frowned. It was because there seemed to be a battle near the border, and there was a faint familiar aura. Let's go down and take a look, Yi Chen instructed. After Yi Chen ordered, the 9-eagle Luan spread its wings and charged toward the ground. It was like a bolt of lightning descending. The closer they got, the more intense the aura became. In the end, Yi Chen's heart skipped a beat. Old Ox? It was a village less than 50 kilometers away from the border of Myanmar. At that moment it was filled with the stench of blood and intense flames. Countless people in uniform set fire everywhere, and there were even many people with dogs searching the mountain behind the village. At the foot of the mountain, a military car was tightly protected by many armed people. In the car, a middle-aged man with white skin held binoculars and observed the mountain in the distance. You must find that brat. If he's alive, I want to see him. If he's dead, I want to see his corpse. Even if you have to flatten this mountain. Yes. A firm voice sounded from the walkie-talkie. In the depths of the mountain there was a natural cave. The light was dim, and only tiny droplets of water fell from the rock wall from time to time. On the ground there was a yellow ox lying there. The ox was extremely old, and it seemed to be on the verge of death. If one took a closer look, they would notice that blood was slowly flowing out of its abdomen. Standing in front of Yellow Ox was a young man of about 17 or 18 years of age. The young man's face was pale, his lips were chapped, and his clothes were torn and tattered. The young man tried to catch the water droplets with his hands as he lowered his head to look at Yellow Ox. Yellow Ox, are you all right? However, Yellow Ox remained motionless, as if it had lost its breath. The young man's body trembled. He hurriedly squatted down and hugged Yellow Ox. His tears flowed down uncontrollably. Yellow Ox, you can't die. You can't die. He had never been so sad before. The young man's name was Qing Shan, and he was born in a small mountain village near the border of Myanmar in southern Yunnan. His parents died when he was a child, and he was raised by his second uncle's family. It wasn't that second uncle didn't treat him as his own nephew. Instead, he made him do all kinds of farm work, not to mention letting him go to school. Because of this, Qing Shan had been very sensible since he was young. He had always been meek and submissive. When he was almost an adult, second uncle was caught smoking. From then on, he was the only one left to survive alone. One night, he heard the sound of a cow crying outside his house. Qing Shan mustered up the courage to open the door, only to find a yellow ox standing outside. Yellow ox was very old. Almost all of its teeth had fallen out. It seemed that it had walked a long way, and its hooves were all rubbed with blood. He would never forget the moment when Yellow Ox saw him. It was as if it had seen an old friend, and it gently nudged him with its pair of horns. At first, Qing Shan thought that it was a cow that had escaped from the village. However, after asking every household in the village, he found that no cow had ever gone missing. Moreover, he couldn't drive Yellow Ox away, so he had no choice but to let it stay in his house. The man and the ox depended on each other. Although Yellow Ox was old, it was very smart and diligent. Every time it planted a crop, it would take the initiative to plow the soil without Qing Shan's permission. However, just 3 days ago, a group of Myanmar mercenaries broke into the village. They seemed to be searching for something, and they killed many people. Qing Shan was the only one who escaped to the back of the mountain on Yellow Ox's back. Finally, he hid in this slightly narrow natural cave. Yellow Ox, wake up! Wake up! Qing Shan shook Yellow Ox's body violently. He cried, I promised you that I would take you to the city. You can't die. Yellow Ox's body twitched. It seemed that it had regained its consciousness. It opened its eyes and looked at Qing Shan. Master, this was the first time it had spoken. However, it was so frightened by Qing Shan that it fell to the ground. Its eyes were full of fear. Master, don't be afraid. Yellow Ox spoke in a very weak voice. If I die, just peel off my skin and put it on your body. That will save your life. No, Qing Shan couldn't care less about his fear. He held the calf's neck tightly and cried, I won't let you die. I won't let you die. At this moment, he didn't know why he was so sad. It was as if the calf in front of him was not a cow, but an old friend who was about to pass away. There is a sound in here. Suddenly, a cry came from outside. Then, there was the sound of footsteps. Oh no, they found us. Qing Shan's expression changed. He was very scared. Yellow Ox roared with all its might. It seemed that it wanted to get up and leave with Qing Shan, but to no avail. It had lived for more than 70 years. It was old. In addition, when it was escaping with Qing Shan, it was shot by a bullet. The loss of blood accelerated the end of its life. Suddenly, a tall and strong man with a dark face walked to the entrance of the cave. He looked at Qing Shan and sneered, So, you are hiding here. Tell the Lord that we have found him. He turned around and said. Then, he looked at the man and the calf with a ferocious expression. Brat, are you going to come out by yourself, or do you want us to come in and catch you? Qing Shan's face was pale. Yellow Ox neighed as if it was unwilling to give up. The man with a dark face ordered without turning his head, Send a skinny man to go in and catch that brat for me. After he finished speaking, there was no movement behind him. He subconsciously looked back and saw a black-haired young man staring at him with a poker face. The dozen men he brought with him were all lying on the ground. Their eyes were wide open, as if they had experienced some kind of fear before they died. The man with a dark face was about to take out his gun. In the next second, he shrieked as one of his arms exploded. Blood splattered all over his face. Ignoring the pain, he looked at the black-haired young man in fear. Who are you? Bang! Yi Chen stretched out his hand and grabbed it. He exerted force with his arm and directly crushed it. Qing Shan, who was in the cave, looked terrified after witnessing everything. He could not understand why the bandits who killed without batting an eye in his eyes would be so weak before this young man before him. End of this chapter. Chapter 1630. The moment the dying Yellow Ox behind him saw the black-haired young man, it could not help but roar with all its might. It seemed to be excited and asking for help. You're quite loyal, you beast. Yi Chen looked at it with a complicated expression. Then, he waved his sleeve, and a large amount of spiritual energy flowed into the yellow ox's body. The injuries on the yellow ox's body healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Not long after, it was able to stand up. Qing Shan was dumbfounded by this scene. Yi Chen lifted his head to look at the young man before him and sighed softly. "Do you still recognize me? God, who are you?" Qing Shan stammered. The shock in his heart could not be erased no matter what. "Looks like you still haven't awakened your memories from your previous life." Yi Chen's eyes flashed and he shook his head immediately. "It's my fault for causing you to suffer this calamity. I'll seek justice for you now. Follow me." With a wave of his sleeve, he carried the oxen man and rode the wind as Qing Shan cried out in alarm. At the same time, in the military vehicle at the foot of the mountain, the white man kept shouting into the walkie-talkie, "B****, where are they?" Then, the other end of the walkie-talkie was filled with noise. There was no other useful sound at all. "Sir, it's too late." An adjutant could not help but say, "We've been waiting here for too long. If China reacts, useless, a bunch of useless people." The white man roared repeatedly before roaring angrily, "Order someone to flatten this mountain." Yes. After the adjutant received the order, he immediately got out of the car to relay the order. Not long after, dozens of cannons were aimed at the mountain in the distance. "Fire!" the adjutant ordered. It was at this moment that a figure suddenly rose from the distant mountain under everyone's gazes and stood in the sky. Everyone was completely stunned. "My God!" Someone gulped and said, "What's that?" "Batman?" The white man looked through the binoculars and saw Yi Chen and the rest's faces clearly. His expression changed suddenly. "Oh no, it's an Eastern cultivator. Fire, fire now!" he roared crazily. Boom! As soon as he said that, the entire world was filled with earth-shaking explosions. Dozens of cannonballs were fired at Yi Chen, who was in the air. However, just when the dozens of cannonballs were 3,000 meters away from Yi Chen, they froze at the same time. "Nuclear weapons can't kill me either." Yi Chen smirked coldly. "Let alone dozens of peanuts?" As soon as he finished speaking, he snapped his fingers and the dozens of stationary cannonballs were forcefully annihilated into powder. "Die!" He used his finger as a sword and slashed out. 1,000-foot-long sword aura whistled down and landed heavily on the troops on the ground. Hundreds of men died on the spot. Only the Caucasian bigshot in the military vehicle was left looking at this scene in horror, as if he had seen a ghost. Yi Chen landed slowly with Qing Shan. He grabbed the white man from the car through the air. "Respected Eastern cultivator, don't kill me, don't kill me, I have a lot of money, I can give it all to you." The Caucasian man begged for mercy in broken Chinese. However, Yi Chen looked at Qing Shan behind him. "He massacred your village. Does he still want to kill you?" "Yes, that's him." Qing Shan looked at the Caucasian man with extreme hatred. He clenched his fists tightly, and he could not help but recall the scenes of his fellow villagers dying tragically. With a thought, Yi Chen handed the true martial Thousand Lightning sword to Qing Shan. "Kill him!" Qing Shan panicked, as if he was startled. Yi Chen repeated himself, "Kill him. This person has killed so many people. Don't you want revenge?" "No." Qing Shan took a few heavy steps back and said very reluctantly, "No, I don't dare." Yi Chen shook his head lightly. As the flames in his eyes danced, the white man's body was ignited by the flames and he was burned out. In the messy village, in a tile-roofed house that barely survived, Qing Shan slowly woke up. The moment he opened his eyes, a hint of confusion flashed across his eyes. However, this blankness was soon replaced by clarity. He looked at Yi Chen next to him slowly. His lips moved slightly, and an ancient expression that did not belong to a young man appeared on his face. Yi Chen turned around slowly and looked at him. He said while smiling lightly, "Old ox, congratulations on recovering your memories from your previous life." Qing Shan was Niu Qingshan's reincarnation in this life, and Yellow Ox was naturally the ox that had followed Niu Qingshan. Yellow Ox swung its whip and came over. It licked Niu Qingshan's tender face crazily, as if it was extremely excited. "Thank you." Niu Qingshan looked at Yi Chen with an extremely complicated expression after pushing Yellow Ox away. He kept recalling the past. Yi Chen shook his head. "You took care of me a lot back then. I was just keeping my promise. I'll help you when you're an adult. There's no need to thank me." "At this point," he said guiltily, "I happened to pass by. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable." Niu Qingshan was silent for a long time before he finally said, "How's China now?" That was Niu Qingshan. The first thing he said was about China and nothing else. "China is doing very well now. It's ranked as the strongest country in the world." Yi Chen smiled lightly. 2 bottles of Maotai appeared in his hand, as if he was performing a magic trick. He handed one over and said, "Have a drink." Niu Qingshan smiled as well. He patted Yellow Ox's butt and said, "Yellow Ox, go get some dishes." Yellow Ox shouted and leaped out of the door. Soon, he returned with a few packets of Weilong spicy strip. They were the only ones left after the only shop in the village was burned down. Yi Chen and Niu Qingshan finished 2 bottles of Maotai with just a few packets of Weilong spicy strip. Meanwhile, Yi Chen slowly recounted his experiences over the years, the changes on Earth, and even the existence of Yin Su. When he heard that the foreign enemies had invaded Earth, and that many Chinese cultivators had died in battle, Niu Qingshan cried bitterly. He hated himself for being a baby waiting to be fed back then. Niu Qingshan laughed out loud when he heard that Yi Chen had wiped out many foreign sections. He was so excited that he cried. That was Niu Qingshan for the country and the people. He had spent his entire life protecting the country in his previous life. Niu Qingshan finished the last mouthful of wine and looked at him with a flushed face. His gaze was extremely complicated. What's your cultivation base now? Complete void refinement. Yi Chen did not hide it. He said while smiling, however, "I can still fight a soul-splitting almighty. Time flies." Niu Qingshan sighed softly. "When I first saw you back then, sigh, we're destined to be old antiques that are eliminated by the times. The future of China and Earth still depends on people like you," he said desolately. However, Yi Chen smiled mysteriously. "Since I helped you, the Dragon Soul Master, awaken your memory, how can I watch you become mediocre?" End of this chapter. Chapter 1631. In Liangjiang, China. It was the release of the college entrance examination result. Both sides of the bustling street were filled with onlookers. Everyone looked at the tall horse in the middle of the street enviously. A handsome young man sat on the tall horse. He was about 17 or 18 years old. He had a young smile and a big red flower on his chest. Meanwhile, a long line of people followed behind him. They would hit the huge gong from time to time. "Is he the genius from Yun City's Chen family? That's amazing. He scored 750 on the college entrance examination. He's the top student in science in Liangjiang." He gave up the recruitment from the 2 top universities in Beijing and applied for China's military university instead. Beijing offered $1,000,000 to fight for him, but he rejected them. "If it were my child, I'd wake up laughing even in my dreams." I heard that this child was determined to be a soldier since he was young. He has great talent in military affairs. He even alarmed the highest commander of the local garrison. All sorts of discussions broke out from the crowd from time to time. They did not hide the envy and admiration on their faces. In the crowd, Yi Chen and Niu Qingshan, who had recovered his memory, looked at the young man on the tall horse quietly. You looking at the slightly green face, Niu Qingshan was a little dazed. "Are you sure this brat is old Chen's reincarnation?" "Of course, it's him." Yi Chen smiled lightly, feeling a little dazed too. He recalled how domineering old Chen was back then. He did not expect his reincarnation to be so weak. What surprised me even more was that he chose to join the military in this reincarnation. Yi Chen mumbled, "Could it be that this is predestined?" In his previous life, Old Chen had given his all for the country. In the end, he went to Kunlun Mountain alone to fight the powerhouses of Shang Santian and died in battle. Meanwhile, his reincarnation gave up the recruitment from the two top universities in Beijing and chose China's military university instead. At the same time, the parade gradually left, leaving behind a crowd of people who were still in shock. Yi Chen smiled and followed them at a steady pace with Niu Qingshan. Yun City's Qin village was originally a remote and backward mountain area. It was so poor that roads and water and electricity were blocked. More than 10 years ago, a young man from the Chen family village made a fortune. This young man did not forget the kindness of the villagers and spent tens of millions to build a road for the Chen family temple. He also attracted investment from outside. In just over a decade, the Chen family temple had developed from a remote mountainous area to one of the 10 most famous villages in the country. To thank him for his kindness, the villagers raised money to build an ancestral hall, where the ancestors of the Chen family and civil star were worshipped. The Chen village's ancestral hall was approximately 1,000 square meters in size, and the building was rather ancient. At this moment it was densely packed with villagers. Everyone raised their heads and looked at the path of existence with anticipation. Following the intermittent sound of a gong, someone in the crowd said happily, "She's here, Mr. Chen. Xiao Zhao is back." The one who was the most excited was a middle-aged woman who was surrounded by many people. The man was about 40 years old and had a mustache. He had an extraordinary temperament. As for the middle-aged woman, although she was already over 40, she maintained herself well and looked as if she was only 30. Under everyone's gazes, they saw a group of people escorting a large horse as they slowly approached. Zhao, the middle-aged man, was pleasantly surprised as he welcomed the young man. He gently helped the young man down from the horse and gave him a big hug. "Dad." The young man smiled happily. "Good job. I'm proud of you." The middle-aged man gave him a thumbs up and smiled proudly. "A man is born to protect the country. I respect your choice. Let's go and worship the ancestors." After saying that, he pulled the young man into the ancestral hall. Plop! He held a stick of incense in his hand and knelt before the many spirit tablets in front of him. Ancestors of the Qin family, I, Qin Denka's son, Qin Zhao, passed the golden examination and became the Liangjiang science champion. Today I'm here to pay my respects. The young man, Qin Zhao, also knelt down. All the Chen family villagers watched this scene with serious expressions. The two people in front of them were the pride of the Chen family village. One became rich from business and was worth over 100 million. The other threw away his pen and joined the army to serve on the battlefield. And it was in this extremely solemn occasion that a faint voice suddenly came from afar. "Your body is not yours. Your body is not jade. Let the fire burn this body." As this sudden voice rang out, everyone subconsciously turned their heads to look at the source of the voice. In the distance, there was a young man in green leading a young man in black. The young man had a dignified appearance and was handsome. A villager couldn't help but step forward and say, "Little brother, today is the Chen family village's worship day. I hope you can step aside for now." However, the young man walked straight into the ancestral hall, as if he didn't see him. Someone suddenly became furious and reached out to grab him. However, when his hand touched the young man's clothes, he was immediately pushed back a few steps by a huge force. The man's expression changed and he immediately waved his hand. "This person is here to cause trouble. Catch him." In an instant, several strong young men suddenly pounced at the young man. However, these people were all pushed back without exception. Everyone was shocked. A few experts next to Chendenka rushed out and protected the father and son behind them. One of the old men in traditional attire took a good look at Yi Chen and said in his deep voice, "Director Chen, this person might be a cultivator. The old man had white hair and a slightly hunched back. However, his breathing was extremely long. His temples were bulging and his eyes were as sharp as an eagle's. Clearly, he was a martial cultivator. Little brother. He took a deep breath in and walked up to Yi Chen while clasping his fists. I'm Wang Pan, the 8-trigram fist sect leader. I wonder if there's any misunderstanding between you and Director Chen? He thought Yi Chen and the rest were here to cause trouble. Therefore, he revealed their names by instinct in an attempt to resolve the grudge. However, Yi Chen shook his head and pointed at Chen Zhao, who was kneeling on the cattail hassock. I'm here for him. The people's expressions changed when they heard that. Wang Pan's pupils shrunk at first, then he said coldly, If that's the case, please forgive me for being rude. As soon as he said that, he sank his energy into his dantian and shouted. A powerful energy shot out of his body and charged at Yi Chen. In the next second, he spat a mouthful of blood out and was thrown out. He landed hard on the ground with a horrified expression on his face. He had a martial, venerable cultivation base too. Never had he thought that he would be defeated before he could even touch the corner of Yi Chen's clothes. Powerhouse, this person was a powerhouse. Upon seeing that, the remaining experts who were protecting Chendenka were going to attack. However, Chendenka suddenly said, Get this expert here. The people then dispersed. Yi Chen walked toward Chendenka and his son one step after another. He glanced at Chen Zhao first and then looked at Chendenka. Mr. Chen, do you remember me? End of chapter. Chapter 1632. Who are you? Chendenka was stunned at first, then he took a good look at him. He seemed to have recalled something as he said all of a sudden, Why, you're the savior who saved me back then? 18 years ago. He was only 24 years old when he was still a university student who had just graduated. He did not achieve anything and was rejected when he was looking for a job. Moreover, his girlfriend was about to give birth. He offended someone because he was drunk at a bar. He was almost severed when he was caught. It was Yi Chen who saved him back then. One could say that without Yi Chen, Chendenka would have died on the streets a long time ago, let alone achieve what he had today. He had always remembered that. However, he had never seen Yi Chen since then. He did not even know Yi Chen's name. 18 years had passed, and he had buried that in his heart. Never had he thought that he would see that person again today. What shocked him the most was that the face of his savior back then did not change at all. 18 years had passed, but he was still extremely young. I can't believe you still remember me. Yi Chen smiled lightly. 18 years ago, he had followed the advice of old Chen, Niu Qingshan, second uncle, second aunt, and the rest. He had put them into the wombs of women who were about to give birth in China. Meanwhile, he had bumped into Chendenka on the way. He had saved him back then, but to his surprise, he noticed that Chendenka had a full forehead and was in good condition. There was even a red phoenix dancing between his brows. He had determined that Chendenka would definitely be extraordinary in the future. Coupled with his good character and the fact that he had saved him, he decided to put old Chen's soul into Chendenka's wife's womb. Zhao. Chendenka suddenly pulled his son, Chen Zhao, and knelt hard to Yi Chen. This is my savior 18 years ago. Without him, I would have been dead. Everyone turned pale with fright when they heard this. The savior 18 years ago? They thought they heard it wrong when they looked at Chendenka, who was over 40 years old, and Yi Chen, who was over 20 years old. Chendenka was old enough to be this young man's father, right? Even the young man, Chen Zhao, was no exception. However, being filial, he pretended to kneel and kowtow to Yi Chen. Yi Chen waved his sleeve and stopped the father and son from kneeling. He said while shaking his head, There's no need for that. I'm here today to keep the promise I made to an old friend back then. He paused for a moment before saying, I wonder if you, father and son, are willing to come with me to a quiet place to talk? After the father and son nodded, He waved his sleeve and immediately carried the two of them and Niu Qingshan with the wind. They instantly disappeared on the spot. Immortal! Immortal! Everyone was shocked. Some even knelt down on the ground and prayed piously. 3 living people disappeared in an instant. If they weren't immortals, what were they? Only the old man called Wang Pan seemed to have thought of something as he excitedly said, "Cultivators, this is a cultivator. This is a supreme opportunity for Director Chen's family." On a mountain peak near the Chen village, Yi Chen put down Chendenka and his son, who looked horrified. After the two of them had calmed down, he slowly said, "Next, I'm going to tell the two of you something that might shatter your inner world. You have to be mentally prepared." Chendenka took a deep breath in after hearing that. He could not help but look at Yi Chen. "May I ask if you're an immortal cultivator, benefactor?" He was worth over 100 million yuan now, and was considered an upper-class person in Liangjiang. Naturally, he came into contact with more things than ordinary people. Therefore, he vaguely knew about the existence of immortal cultivators. However, he did not have the opportunity to meet them. Moreover, 18 years had passed, but Yi Chen's appearance remained the same. Apart from immortal cultivators, who else could do such a heaven-defying technique? "That's right." Yi Chen nodded lightly and said while looking at Qin Zhao, who was still in shock, "I'm here for your son today." "For Zhao?" Chendenka was stunned at first, then he said in excitement, "Benefactor, could it be that Zhao has the potential to become an immortal?" He knew very well what it meant to be an immortal cultivator. "Yes." Yi Chen shook his head in between tears and laughter. He said, "But that's secondary. What's important is that your son was an old friend of mine in his past life. To be exact, he was an elder. You'll understand after I tell you a story." Before Chendenka could react, he slowly told him about how he knew Old Chen, how Old Chen went to Kunlun Mountain alone to attack Shang Santian to protect the Yi family, and how he died in the battle. Heaven and earth seemed to fall into dead silence after listening to him. Chendenka and his son were shocked, and they could not snap back to their senses for a long time. Yi Chen did not disturb them. Instead, he let them digest the information in their heads patiently. After all, what he said was too shocking to ordinary people. A long while later, Chendenka finally snapped back to his senses. He glanced at Qin Zhao with a complicated expression and said, "So, benefactor, are you saying that my son is General Chen Tulong?" "That's right," Yi Chen nodded. Chendenka took a deep breath in and said while forcing a smile, "To be honest, I regret knowing about this secret. As a father, I know you're conflicted," Yi Chen said. "As a father, your son was once a pillar of the country. This makes you conflicted because there will be a lot of feelings between you and your son." Chendenka nodded, while forcing a smile. "I understand you very well. That's why I'm talking to you in detail today." Yi Chen continued, "No matter what, it's a fact that your son is the reincarnation of my old friend. Of course, I won't force you guys to be father and son. I have 2 ideas. You can take a look." He took a deep breath in and said, "Firstly, I'll unlock your son's memories from his past life and guide him to the Tao at the same time." Chendenka's lips moved slightly. "Secondly," Yi Chen said while smiling, "secondly, I won't unlock his memories from his past life for now. I'll guide him to the Tao first and teach him cultivation method. When he steps into nascent soul, he'll be able to awaken his memories from his past life on his own." Chendenka remained silent. Yi Chen did not force him. He said slowly, "No matter the first or second method, your son will awaken his memories from his past life. It's just a matter of time." Of course. He could not help but look at Chendenka as he spoke to this point. Unless you want your son to be an ordinary person for the rest of his life and never step onto the path of cultivation. That way, you and your son might be able to enjoy family ties like ordinary people. He had mixed feelings about Chendenka. Although Chen Zhao was the reincarnation of old Chen, his life in this life was given by Chen Denke after all. No matter how powerful Yi Chen was, he could not take away a father's right to love his son. That was why he came up with these two ideas. Mr. Chen. Niu Qingshan, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said, "Earth is in danger now. I think you're a hot-blooded person. Are you willing to watch us fight alone?" End of this chapter. Chapter 1633. In the vast void, a sword gleam broke through the layers of clouds and flashed through the void like a bolt of lightning. Niu Qingshan, who was standing on the flying sword, turned around and glanced at the two rivers behind him. He sighed softly and said, "Fellow Yi, you don't have to worry too much. After all, everyone has their own choice." Yi Chen flew on his sword with all his might and said with a faint smile, "I don't mind. Just as you said, everyone has their own choice." In the end, Chen Denke and his son were unwilling to unlock the memories of their previous lives. Instead, they chose the second method that Yi Chen provided. Yi Chen taught Chen Denke a cultivation method and left him many resources that he needed for cultivation. Then, he left with Niu Qingshan. Not everyone was like Niu Qingshan. Niu Qingshan had no parents since he was young. He did not have as many shackles as Chen Zhao, so he was more than happy to awaken the memories of his previous life. However, Chen Zhao was different. In this life, he had parents and relatives who loved him, and he also had the ideals that he had in this life. It was easier said than done for him to give up so many things at once. However, just as Yi Chen said, even if Chen Zhao chose to cultivate on his own, he would be able to awaken the memories of his previous life as long as he cultivated to nascent soul. By then, he would be able to accept all of this. As Yi Chen thought about that, he activated his flying sword with all his might. "After I find second uncle and second aunt, my trip will be considered complete." Back then, he had followed the last wishes of a few people. Now, it was time for it to blossom and bear fruit. There had to be an ending. In a small district in Jinling City, China. At that moment, the area was filled with police lines. Countless police officers knocked on doors and interrogated them. From time to time, they would take statements. The atmosphere was very serious. In a family in Unit 502, Unit 5, Building C, the door was wide open. A slightly old woman was surrounded by many people. The woman covered her face and cried, her eyes red. "Sister Shufin, you have to take care of yourself." The neighbor comforted her sympathetically. "I believe the police will find Yi Qi. If you ruin your body, it won't be worth it." That's right. Technology is so advanced now. It's impossible for a living person to disappear without a trace. The others comforted her. The woman in front of them was called Chen Shufin. She usually made a living by buying vegetables at the market and lived alone with a son. The neighbors were all very friendly and kind to this strong mother and son. They would help out whenever they could. 3 days ago, Chen Shufin's only son, Yi Qi, did not return home after school. At first, everyone thought that the child had gone to his classmate's house, but they could not find him after a whole day of searching. Chen Shufin chose to call the police, but in the 48 hours after the police intervened, there was still no result. On the contrary, in the past 48 hours, the police received reports from other families. The cases were very similar to Chen Shufin's family, and there were even people from wealthy families in Jinling City. In just 48 hours, more than a dozen children had gone missing, all of whom were 17 or 18 years old. The police increased the number of police reinforcements. At the same time, they issued a bounty notice and searched the entire city, but they were still unable to find anything. Ms. Chen. Looking at the heartbroken Chen Shufin, the third-grade superintendent in charge of this matter, Xiao Nan, could not help but say, "Don't worry, the police will definitely find your child." Everyone else dispersed. Under her urging, everyone in the house shook their heads and returned to their own homes. At the same time, they closed their doors and did not allow their children to go out. At that moment, a young man in green walked into the Yi residence slowly. There was a young man in black following behind him. It was Yi Chen and Niu Qingshan. He was here for his second uncle's reincarnation. Never had he thought that he would notice the changes that happened in the past 3 days. 5:20 As the duo appeared, a young superintendent at the scene shouted, "Gentlemen, the police have sealed this place. Please go back." "That's why I'm here." Yi Chen chuckled and glanced through the house. Eventually, he had his eyes on Chen Shufan. "Who are you?" The third-grade superintendent, Xiao Nan, looked at Yi Chen with a scrutinizing gaze because she had never seen Yi Chen's face in this neighborhood. "I'm an old friend of the missing child." Yi Chen smiled lightly. Chen Shufan wiped her tears and lifted her head to look at him upon hearing that. "Sir, who are you? You don't know him." A gleam flashed through Xiao Nan's eyes. There was a hint of caution in his eyes when he looked at Yi Chen again. "Since you're not a relative of this family, and you're not a member of the police force, please go back. The police will take responsibility for this." However, Yi Chen shook his head. "You guys can't take responsibility for this." He lifted his feet and stepped into the Yi residence after saying that. Xiao Nan was enraged. "Cuff him." A young superintendent forced a smile. He thought to himself that this young mistress had a hot temper. She would cuff someone just because of a disagreement. However, he did not hesitate and cuffed Yi Chen without saying anything. He comforted him. "Brother, we suspect that you're related to this. Don't worry. We'll let you go as soon as we find out. I've told you guys that you guys can't take responsibility for this." Yi Chen shook his head lightly. As Xiao Nan and the rest watched in shock, the cuffs that were cuffing him were suddenly undone. "Don't move." Xiao Nan took out her gun and aimed it at Yi Chen without saying anything. "Who exactly are you? I'm ordering you to squat down and put your hands on your head." However, Yi Chen walked straight to Chen Shufan as if he did not hear her. Xiao Nan clenched her teeth and wanted to shoot into the air. However, she felt that Yi Chen merely glanced at her in the next second. The gun in her hand flew out of her hand and landed in Yi Chen's hand. "Don't move." The other police officers were shocked as well. They aimed at Yi Chen. Yi Chen picked up the gun slowly and aimed it at his head. Then, he pulled the trigger softly. Everyone, including Xiao Nan, could not bear to close their eyes. When they opened their eyes again, they were horrified to find that a bullet had appeared in Yi Chen's hand out of nowhere. Yi Chen exerted force with his 5 fingers, and the bullet turned into metal powder that scattered on the ground. "Now, do you guys believe in my ability?" Under everyone's stunned gaze, Yi Chen walked to Chen Shufan and smiled lightly. "I can help you find your son, but I need a piece of underwear that he often wears. It's best if it's unwashed." Chen Shufan was stunned for a moment before she finally reacted. There was a glimmer in her numb eyes as she got up and walked into the bedroom to rummage through the drawers. Meanwhile, Xiao Nan snapped back to her senses. She glared at Yi Chen with her beautiful eyes. "Which special department are you from?" Although she had just graduated from the police academy, she still knew some things that ordinary people could not come into contact with, such as special cultivation organizations like the Dragon King Palace. Yi Chen glanced at her with a forced smile. "Little girl, curiosity killed the cat." Chapter 1634. She seemed to be worried that Yi Chen would be unhappy after saying that, so she explained immediately. "That child usually stays in school. He only goes home on Saturdays and weekends. I only found this pair of socks that he hid under the bed." "Sure." Yi Chen smiled lightly and said after taking the pair of socks, "Can I take a drop of blood from your fingertip?" Chen Shufan was stunned. However, after meeting Yi Chen's gaze, she eventually bit her middle finger in trust. Blood gushed out immediately. Meanwhile, she looked at Yi Chen nervously as if she did not feel any pain. "Is that enough?" "Yes." Yi Chen sighed softly. He waved his sleeve after taking a drop of blood. Under Xiao Nan and the rest's dumbfounded expressions, Chen Shufan's hand that was bitten healed again. Yi Chen said nothing. He performed a seal with both hands and used the drop of blood as ink to draw on the pair of socks in the air. Blood-colored gleams condensed on the socks. The blood-colored gleams eventually transformed into a very complicated formation. It looked like a mysterious talisman with mysterious patterns flickering on it. It was the bloodline sensing talisman. Through the connection between the bloodline and the person, it could locate the person's environment. Bloodline attraction, Yi Chen shouted. The pair of socks with the talisman on them soared into the air. It flew out of the open window as if it had been summoned. Let's go. Yi Chen waved his sleeve and took a step forward with Niu Qingshan, who was stunned. They disappeared from where they were instantly. What was left was a stunned crowd. Deep in the Shirwan Mountains in the northwest, there was a remote place that was covered in miasma and poisonous gas. No living being dared to step into it. What people did not know was that there was a huge cave that was dug by a great divinity in the huge mountain deep in the miasma. Outside the cave, there were two men dressed in red robes guarding the entrance. Bang! Suddenly, a woman flew out from the cave and crashed heavily into the grass. The woman was around 17 or 18 years old. She was naked, and her skin was as dry as an old woman's. Her eyes were wide open, as if she had died with a grievance. Trash, a bunch of trash! Hearing those words, the two men guarding the entrance of the cave immediately heavily knelt on the ground. Their expressions were incomparably terrified. The inside of the cave was extremely spacious, like a palace in the mountains. In the middle of the huge stone hall sat an old man with a hideous expression. Trash, a bunch of trash! The old man cursed in exasperation. What I want are virgin boys and girls. What did this bunch of trash catch for me? Everyone in front of him knelt down, their bodies trembling. At this time, an old woman with a cane coughed a few times and said, "Reporting to Master, recently we have consecutively robbed more than 10 people, causing quite a commotion. If we act again, I'm afraid." Afraid of what? The old man's eyes were like snakes. The old lady's expression changed slightly. I'm afraid it will attract the attention of the Chinese cultivation world. If they are forced to intervene, it will be very troublesome for us. With that bunch of trash? The old man snorted coldly as if he was disdainful. The upper echelons of the Chinese cultivation world died in battle back then. Those who were lucky enough to survive or those who have recovered have already entered the Yin ruins. Who else in this world can be my match? Master is right, the old lady hurriedly complimented. Fate, I'll give you 2 days to gather 9 pairs of virgin boys and girls with cultivation aptitude. The old man's expression turned cold, and his eyes turned blood-red. As long as I gather 9 pairs of virgin boys and girls with cultivation aptitude, I can use the blood-spirit technique to collect yin and yang and step into the void refinement stage. Yes, master, the old lady responded and retreated. At the same time, on the other side of the cave, in a huge stone room, at that moment there were more than 10 young boys and girls locked up. All of them were tied up, and their faces were filled with fear and despair. All sorts of cries were intertwined. Among the dozen or so people, there was a man and a woman who were relatively calm. The man seemed to be a young man about 16 or 17 years old. The young man's face was sallow, and he seemed to be malnourished. A few patches could be seen on his school uniform. The young girl had attractive features, and her eyes were clear. She was dressed extravagantly, and she had an extraordinary air of nobility about her. Crying, is that all you know how to do? Hearing the cries around her, the young girl smiled coldly and looked down on them. What's the use of crying? Won't you die if you cry? A boy glared at her angrily. Yang Shui, do you still have the mood to be sarcastic at a time like this? At least I know that crying is useless. The young girl named Yang Shui smiled disdainfully. Look at Yi Qi since he was captured. He has been calmer than anyone else. This is the only way we can calm down and try to save ourselves. Hearing that, the young man in the school uniform in the corner could not help but scratch his head. He smiled sheepishly. Since I was young, my mother has told me that the more dangerous the situation is, the calmer we should be. Everyone must believe that we will definitely get out of here alive. Come on, this piece of trash? How are we going to get out of here alive? Are we going to transform into Iron Man and blast through this iron wall, or are we going to transform into Batman and fly out? The crowd smiled coldly. All sorts of sarcastic remarks fell into Yi Qi's ears. The latter's smile froze, and he immediately lowered his head. Yi Qi, don't mind what they said. Yang Shui looked at Yi Qi and comforted him. They're usually so arrogant and domineering. They only know how to cry when they're in danger. In my eyes, you're much stronger than them. Is that so? The young girl's comforting words made Yi Qi's face heat up, and he gained a lot of courage. He lifted his head and looked at the young girl's moving face. He took a deep breath and said, Yang Shui, if we all die here, we won't. Yang Shui's face turned pale and she interrupted him. We won't die. Grandpa and the rest will definitely come and save us. At the end of the day, she was still a 17 or 18-year-old girl. Even if she was stronger than her peers, how much stronger could she be? Yi Qi nodded hard. The young girl paused for a moment and her beautiful eyes dimmed. If we get out of here alive, I'll be your girlfriend. As she said that, her pretty face heated up, and she could not help but bury her head. Really? Yi Qi was stunned at first, and then he reacted. When he looked at the young girl again, his eyes were mixed with disbelief and intense excitement. Then, his eyes dimmed and he said in despair, Unfortunately, we're all going to die in here. Boom! At that moment, everyone felt the ground under their feet shake violently, as if the earth was shaking and the mountains were shaking. Chapter 1635. In the northwestern mountains, shrouded in endless miasma, Yi Chen's divine will was like a flood that enveloped a radius of 50 kilometers. Countless scenes were reflected in his eyes instantly. 1 at perfected God transformation stage, 2 at late stage God transformation stage, 5 at early stage God transformation stage, and several nascent soul cultivators with his enormous divine will. He saw everything from the leader of the evil organization to the disciples guarding the door. This even included the dozen or so children who were imprisoned. Very good. He sneered and took a step forward, teleporting toward the place where they were imprisoned. He said furiously, A mere perfected God transformation stage cultivator dares to plunder ordinary people. I think you're tired of living. His voice was like a thunderclap that resounded in the ears of all the living beings within a radius of 50 kilometers. His aura surged, and his pressure was unparalleled. The sky above the entire northwestern mountains seemed to darken. There was only a godlike figure. In an instant, all the living beings within a radius of 50 kilometers felt this monstrous rage. Countless living beings prostrated on the ground, trembling. It was too terrifying. Countless figures whizzed out from the mountain where the dozen or so children were imprisoned. All of them had killing intent on their faces. When they saw that it was a young man in green and a young man in black standing before them, everyone was shocked. Kill him! Someone shouted. Instantly, dozens of figures charged at Yi Chen. There was a chilly wind that sounded like ghosts wailing and wolves howling. You're courting death. Yi Chen's divine will gathered and swept out in all directions. Under the terrifying divine sense that was like quicksand, a series of blood-curdling screams rang out and a ghastly mist of blood appeared in the air. At the same time, in the hall in the mountain, an old woman trembled as she leaned on her walking stick. Master, this is bad. A Chinese powerhouse is here. A Chinese powerhouse? The ferocious old man sitting at the head of the table was shocked at first, then he sneered. So what if he's a Chinese powerhouse? I'm now at perfected God transformation stage. No one below void refinement can kill me. With that, the old man took a step forward and instantly appeared outside the cave. Then, he saw a scene that terrified him. More than 50 disciples died instantly. There were even 2 soul formation final stage cultivators among them. However, when he saw Yi Chen's face clearly, he shuddered as if he had seen something terrifying. He cried out in shock, "Mad Southern Yi! So you still know me?" Yi Chen looked at him coldly. "You're great. Not only did you plunder ordinary people to cultivate evil techniques, you even dared to touch my people." Misunderstanding. The hideous old man's expression changed abruptly, and he was extremely bitter. Damn it, why did I provoke this malefic star? He would never forget the endless killings Yi Chen had committed when he returned from the ancient, desolate realm. When the news of Yi Chen and Yin Su killing many void refinement powerhouses spread, it became a nightmare for almost everyone. Misunderstanding, right? Yi Chen grabbed it from afar, ignoring the man's resistance. The ferocious old man's gaze became ruthless, and he actually intended to detonate himself. However, in the next moment, he let out waves of shrill cries. It was Yi Chen who had performed the soul-searching tactic on him. One was at stage soul formation, while the other was at stage void refinement. Their combat power was not equal at all. How could he have the strength to resist Yi Chen? Bang! Yi Chen crushed him into a bloody mist and extracted his soul. He then condensed the true Samadhi fire to destroy it. Great blood spirit method. It really is an evil technique. He sneered and directly stepped into the belly of the huge mountain. At the same time, in the stone room where more than 10 children were imprisoned. "Stop crying." Yang Shui stopped the others from crying and tilted her ear. "Listen, the commotion outside is getting louder and louder." Someone's eyes lit up and hope was ignited. "Yang Shui, could it be that your family's elders are here to save you? There's no one with the surname Yi in my family." Yang Shui shook her head and could not help but look at Yi Qi in the corner. "Yi Qi, could he be here to save you? Although my surname is also Yi, our family isn't well off. How could we know such a person?" Yi Qi shook his head repeatedly as if he was envious. Boom! Suddenly, under everyone's shocked gazes, the giant stone door that imprisoned them shook violently. Then, it cracked into countless pieces at a speed visible to the naked eye. Everyone covered their heads with their hands by instinct, afraid that the stone shards would accidentally hurt them. However, to their surprise, although the stone door cracked, it did not explode. Instead, it fell to the ground. At the same time, a young man in green appeared before everyone's eyes. The young man was as handsome as a god, and there was a faint smile on his face. At that moment, everyone was stunned, including Yang Shui and Yi Qi. In the end, Yang Shui was the first to react. She said gratefully, "Thank you for saving me, senior." Haha. Yi Chen looked at her with a forced smile and said something that puzzled everyone. "Do you still remember me?" Yang Shui could not help but take a few more glances at him. Although she found him familiar, she could not remember where she had seen him before. Instead, a stuttering voice came from the corner. "Why, you're that Uncle Yi from before?" Everyone looked over and saw Yi Qi looking at Yi Chen blankly. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Yang Shui finally recalled after hearing his reminder. She looked at Yi Chen in disbelief. "So, it's you, Uncle." Yi Chen smiled in between tears and laughter. "You're flattering me if you call me that." Yi Qi was the reincarnation of his second uncle, Yi Ming. However, he called him uncle instead. If Yi Qi were to awaken his memories from his past life, it would probably be even more awkward. "Let's go. I'll send you guys back." After shaking his head, he waved his sleeve. Everyone felt a gust of wind and their bodies floated uncontrollably. Subsequently, all sorts of exclamations were heard. Yang Shui was the only one who remained calm. After leaving the cave, Yang Shui could not help but turn around and look behind her. She asked, "Senior, where are the bad guys who captured us?" "They're dead." Yi Chen chuckled softly. Yang Shui was shocked again when she heard that. She knew very well that the evil force was no weaker than the Yang family of Jinling. However, Yi Chen had crushed them all alone? Whoosh! At that moment, an old, furious voice came from the void. Let go of my granddaughter! Boom! A gigantic hand slammed hard at Yi Chen. An electric arc flashed through Yi Chen's eyes. The giant hand collapsed instantly and turned into countless terrifying storms that scattered in all directions. After hearing that voice, Yang Shui said excitedly, Grandpa, don't do anything rash. This senior is here to save us. P.S. There's only one chapter today. Rest early, everyone. End of this chapter.